I'm way worse at singing than I am at podcasting. I'm not that good at podcasting.
No, man, you're good. You're good.
Now, how'd you get into the podcast? This topic for podcast?
Beer? Well, so my original, it's still my co-host Dave from 20 North Broadway.
By the way, that's my favorite place for chicken wings and patty melts.
Yeah.
And all things pub food.
You know what's funny? Well, so Erin, Eric, he handles the kitchen side and the menu and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He just decides the way he does his menu is by he asks himself, if I'm drunk at 2:30 in the morning, what am I going to want to eat?
Patty melt.
And that's what my
all
menu
day.
is. That's my menu.
Dude, the guy that
gravy fries, dude.
Yeah,
gravy fries.
They don't do disco fries there, I don't think.
2 a.m. Yeah, disco fries, especially poutine.
Yeah,
poutine, love it.
2
Tipsy
a.m.
Moose is very good for that.
Dude, growing up, Bob's in Waterville.
Yeah. They're macaroni and cheese nuggets.
Dude, I don't know. When I used to DJ, I was telling you on our last podcast, I used to DJ, and at 4 a.m. when we'd close down, we're like, all right, let's go to Bob's. I mean, we were there almost every weekend without fail. Yeah, definitely.
No shit. Dude, at 20 North, the guy that would invariably always waits on us, the guy with the beard, pulls the pencil out.
That's Dave. That's
Dave?
Yeah, that's my co-host.
I wish you were here right now.
He's great.
That dude has made an impact on me.
I'll bring him back. For sure. We'll definitely be back.
He literally has made an impact on me.
He had a trip planned for today, and he was trying to get out of it. He's like, I'm making phone calls. I'm trying to get out of this trip because we're gonna do this podcast on Monday.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it because of the weather, and then it started snowing again yesterday. So thankfully it warmed up. But so Dave couldn't make it, but he's normally so him and I would sit there at the bar, like you said. He has major impact, and he was a great guy. Mm-hmm. Him and I would just talk for hours. He would obviously walk away and go help people, but we'd sit there throughout the night, just have a conversation. He'll leave, and then he'll walk back over without missing a beat. Him and I would pick that conversation right back up.
Is he an owner?
Yeah, he runs the bar side of it, and Eric runs the food side of it.
Cool, very cool.
So
I mean, no offense, but I appreciate Dave not being here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny.
Open the door.
Yeah,
Dave said to me, well, so Erin called me, or not called me, but texted me, I don't know, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks, week and a half ago, and it was like, hey, listen, I had a really good time. Thanks again for having me on. I was like, yeah, man, we got to talk. I'm glad we're not going to talk about it right this second, but I want to know what's going on with you, and we'll do a quick update before we really start to roll into the Speckled Pig. But Dave, Erin says, hey, if you ever need backup, I would love to be a part of it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, no problem. So then we did, literally a week later, or the day later, we did Active Ingredient in Malta.
Yeah,
and
very nice guys, by the way.
Oh, they're phenomenal.
Super nice.
And their beer's great.
Yeah.
The atmosphere
Shout out to Brian. Good dude.
Yeah.
Brian and Nate.
Nate's the one that I've met a couple times. He was here the other day.
I told him to come.
And I didn't even know he was here. All of a sudden I look over and there's a 4-pack of Active Ingredient there. And one of the bartenders is like, oh yeah, the guy came here, had a pizza and dropped that off. I called him the next day and I was like, bro, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Wish I got a chance to meet you and talk to you. I met him at one of the beer festivals.
Awesome.
But he was a great guy.
That's how I met them. As a matter of fact, my first beer fest, Saratoga Beer Fest, that's actually when we met.
Yeah.
I was having tons of problems when we were setting up, and Brian from Active Ingredient was set up right next door. And so, he just was super nice and was like, dude, let's figure this out. So he was helping me out. And so we hit it off right there, and I was like, yeah, we got to go up there. And again, shout out to Brian, and I haven't made it up to Active yet, but at the Troy Brew Fests, they were also near us and tried a bunch of their beers. Good stuff, good guys, and that's where I met Nate. So
yeah.
But for sure, so Dave says, Dave and I went and did that podcast, and Dave's like, man, I love doing these. He's like, I'm so sorry that I bailed out the last couple times. He's like, never again. I'm never going to miss another show. I was like, oh man, Erin's going to think that I'm dodging him. And then here we are, a couple days later, and it just worked out that way. So I don't think Dave's going to be able to make it to 100% of them. And for scheduling, it's tough for me to schedule myself in the brewery, let alone getting Dave involved too. So
Well, I will absolutely stand in anytime.
For sure.
And or join the two of you.
Yeah.
Up to you guys, but glad to be here.
Well, I want to start getting into doing. Guy from Mixed Breed brought this up once, and I thought it was a great idea. I want to start doing brewer panels at least once a month or once a quarter, where we get a bunch of brewers together and we just talk about like the different fads that are going on and what you see and what you see. Because I think what was very important when we first started this podcast was the idea was to get out there during COVID and tell people where they can get their favorite food and where they can get their favorite beer. And that's really how this began. And then it kind of morphed into COVID kind of melting away and just still getting out and talking to all the different breweries and talking to everybody. So yeah, man, we're really excited. We're excited that you're doing this with us. I'm excited that Erin's here today. We're going to go ahead, since everybody knows what's going on, we're going to go roll right into the intro today.
The Capital Brew Podcast with 20 North Dave and Nick Lee. What's brewing in the 518?
Obviously, Dave's not here today. Erin's stepping in. You guys didn't hear it, but when you go back and listen to this, you'll hear that intro kick in. And like I said, if you get the opportunity, listen to the Active Ingredient podcast. That was a great one.
Yeah.
And obviously listen to ours. We had a
Yeah, it was
D-Scout
a good
with
time.
us. Yeah. So yeah. Normally we have 3 questions. We want to talk about what your heart and soul beer is, what your crazy crowd pleaser is. So your heart and soul beer is the beer that you came up with, or that you guys did as
No pressure.
that you did as a brewery, and you don't have to have one.
We're good.
The one beer that you're most proud of, basically.
Yeah.
Then you have your crazy crowd pleaser, the one beer that everybody comes for. I can tell you right now what I come for. This pale ale. The name is Sansucci, not Sansucci.
Sansucci.
Sansucci. There we go.
Yep.
Pale ale. I love it. It's I think I've tried it. Henry's? Do you have it over at Henry's?
No, we haven't started distribution yet,
No?
but it's in the works.
I thought I had it somewhere before I got here.
Yep.
So that was a.
Yes, Sansucci is a tributary that goes all the way from Lake Champlain, passes through Ballston Spa, and feeds, I guess, the municipal drinking water.
Yeah.
We don't actually brew with that spring water.
No. Is your newest beer that peanut butter?
Yeah, our peanut butter cup porter. That we put that on tap in anticipation of the Chocolate Fest that's coming up in Ballston Spa next week.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
I pretty much live here, and I didn't even know that was going on.
Oh,
Boo-da-boo-da-boo. So a couple things I want to touch up on. Obviously, since the last time we've seen, we know who's getting a tattoo. Between Nico and I, it's not going to be me. So in case you haven't heard, I had a bet going on with a coworker on if the Giants had a better record than the Jets, Nico would have to get a Giants tattoo. If the Jets had a better record than the Jets, I have to get a Jets tattoo. Now, the Giants had a better record, so I don't have to get the tattoo. Now, we were supposed to do that tattoo last weekend, but unfortunately, Nico became under the weather. He was sick. He finally returned back to work. So Saturday, I think the beautiful Jessica and myself, a couple of friends, are going down to Schenectady for the Stroop Stroll. So we can't do Saturday for the tattoo, but Sunday.
the question is, where do you have to get that tattoo?
We didn't specify. We tried to.
Maybe a neck tattoo, something discreet.
That was mentioned. There was
I think it should be a tramp stamp. I think that's clear. Now it was close for a little while, right?
Stamp of shame.
I was sweating.
There was a moment where you guys were like, okay, this could go either way, and it was like a couple weeks of that. So
yeah, it was bad.
Close record.
I was not doing well. You can ask the beautiful Jessica. I was not a good person to be around during that time period. So it's good that it worked out. The Giants had a better record, and now Nico has to get the tattoo, and hopefully Sunday we'll finally have that content. Hopefully, knock on wood. I would knock on it, but I don't want it to bank. Well, there we go. That we get that footage.
yeah, right on. Yeah, I saw some of your Facebook posts on it. I was like, this is hilarious. It's been, it's just this ongoing thing. And actually, when you came to Craftpoint, you were talking about it. You were like, all right, we're doing this. It's going to happen.
Yep.
And so watching along the way, it's been funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of Craftpoint, do we have any updates?
I mean, we've took December, as we said, kind of in November. That's what we were going to do. In January, now I just bought a house. And so,
congratulations.
Thanks.
Whereabouts?
Niskuna.
Sweet.
So I moved from Colony to Niskuna. So not super far, but that's what I've been doing, and it's like focused on there. But we're started looking around. Man, I will just say, and you probably know this too, the real estate market is awful.
Awful.
It's awful.
We
It's
sold our
absolutely
house.
brutal.
We sold our house about 18 months ago.
Well, commercial too. I mean,
Horrible.
it is just brutal. And so rates are terrible. Everything is awful. So
I would have thought 8 months or 18 months ago would have been a good time to sell.
Sold it in one day.
Yeah.
yeah, sell
Never
them, but
tried
then
to buy something else.
but buying is the
Oof.
part, right? Because you're like, and
Yeah.
then the Fed has been ratcheting up interest rates, so that's been rough.
Yeah, right now it's even worse. 'Cause
Yeah.
Jess and I got lucky. We bought our house in March of last year in West Charlton, and we locked
That's a
out.
nice area.
Yeah, our score, it's not score, our rate wasn't as high as they are now.
Yeah.
We just got in.
They're
So,
like over 7.
yeah,
which
and
is
most
nuts.
houses were going over market, and I'm cheap, so I refuse to pay over market value, and so it was
So
a
you're
long
renting.
time.
Yeah.
No, we bought. There was a lot of negotiation going back and forth.
Yeah, we sold over our asking, but I bought under.
Nice.
So
Congratulations.
yeah, but
That's a
again, the
feat.
interest rate is the biggest deal. So, but yeah, so we've been focused. I've been working on the house and trying to get that stuff situated, but essentially we're looking around for that space and just trying to find what our options are. So, in the interim, right now there's no place to find Craftpoint beer, but we're still working on it. So hopefully next time we chat, we'll have more of an update.
Well, you got my number, and hopefully I'll be able to put you, Dave, and
Yeah.
myself and this equipment in the same room at the same time.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
Very
awesome.
cool.
And maybe we'll invite Larry so Larry can come hang out too.
Yeah,
and
man.
We'll have you on.
As long as you're open Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So what days are you guys? Give us a spiel. Like, what do you guys? What's your kind of current state? You're open what days? What do you?
Yeah, we're open 5 days a week. We close on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Kind of strategically, we decided to open on Mondays. It seems to be we're like one of the only games in town on a Monday, and we have trivia on Mondays. It's a packed house here on Mondays. Our trivia night turned out to be just a home run.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah,
who's
it was really good.
your trivia person?
We have, it's actually one of my partner's best friends that does the trivia. He's never done it before, but he's an engineer, just super focused guy, and he puts on a great show. It's awesome. Really good time.
Yeah, I tell people I actually used to do trivia. My
You
background was
did it yourself?
Yeah,
Oh,
my
that's
background's
awesome.
in radio. So I used to do Smarter Than the QTs for Q103 back in the day at the Lager House, which no longer exists. It's now the Tipsy Moose, the original Tipsy Moose off of Latham Circle.
Love Tipsy Moose.
Yeah, they're
Love
yeah.
it. They're
Yeah.
doing tacos now.
Yeah, they got Tipsy Taco.
Tipsy Taco right around the corner.
Now I will say that I've reached out to them a bunch of times to do a podcast. Not reached out, but I talked to some of their staff and yeah, that's the exact same treatment I've been getting from the Tipsy Moose. They just like, yeah, nobody wants to talk to you.
They're like, nope.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They are they still doing the Bloody Mary bar like that?
They are on
that's,
Sundays.
That's a good deal.
So yeah, well, let's first also I want to talk about we're in Boston Spa, not obviously, but we're in Boston Spa.
right in downtown Boston Spa.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location.
Thank you.
It looks. Are you putting something downstairs?
We anticipate we're already starting to do the renovation. That's going to be for a private venue for like little parties, about 60 seater we figure.
Awesome.
And that's going to be for like wedding showers, baby showers, bachelor parties, poker games.
Yeah, I'm down.
That'd be awesome.
I can't do poker where I work, and it's funny because I work at a casino.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm just not allowed.
Hustler.
So, like, it's funny, like, you walk in here, and Jess, when we bought our house, she has this scheme that she wants to do. She likes this white and black look,
Yeah.
and you walk in here, this is Jess's, this is what she's looking at. She wants kind of the rustic, she wants a black, black shutters, white house.
We call it the modern farmhouse look.
Yeah.
Inspired by Joanna Gaines.
Yeah.
My wife is Mary Jo. We call her Mary Joanna Gaines.
There we go.
And our partner is Kelly Elliott.
Okay.
So before we even took the space on, Kelly started to do the design.
Wow.
So the whole exterior was already white with the shutters, with the black.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Like literally, my wife's taste and hers are like very similar. So it worked out great.
I know that Erin's gonna love that scheme too, because that was your black and white, that flat
Yeah.
black and the
Oh,
white
yeah.
logo on your stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
And some gray mixed in certain circumstances. So like if you actually look at our logo, there's 3 colors,
Yeah, it's
even
a cool
though
logo.
it's basically black, gray, and slightly different gray. So when we were printing up shirts, it was like, yeah, that's going to be super expensive to print even just those colors.
Sure,
So,
sure.
But yeah, no, I love it. I really like I like the exposed ceiling. It's got that industrial feel but farmhouse feel. It's a nice space.
And then the brick up front.
Yeah, and the brick.
Yeah, that was laid one at a time. It was not an original. We took that on ourselves.
You added the brick?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Nice.
So yeah, it's I kind of joked around when we first walked in. This is a triple threat. Well, I said it's a double threat, but now it's a triple threat because you got the space that's going in downstairs. It's a wonderful atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
The people of Ballston Spa are great. I mean, we walked in and we were talking
Phenomenal.
to our firefighter friend here, who I can't
Andy.
Yep.
who knows an instructor of mine. I'm actually a Class A firefighter out of West Charlton. So a shout out to Purcell, Bill Purcell. He's one of my instructors. He's also a firefighter right here in Ballston Spa. So I told him to come down and check this place. Actually, he already
Awesome.
said he already checked it
Oh,
out.
cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, the residents here have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, it's been so well received.
It's just not worth a day trip, even if you've never been to Ballston, or if you've been to Ballston Spa. Most some people have driven through. Route 50 goes right through. It's a very popular road going to Saratoga.
Yeah.
Stop and hang out for the day.
Yeah, we're not a pass-through location anymore. If you go on Front Street, there's tons of great restaurants.
For
There's
sure.
good pubs, and there's really cool antique shops here.
Yeah.
Like, you can make a day easily out of hanging out here. It's
Come down.
It's literally like a little Saratoga Springs.
Go have breakfast at the Iron Roost
Oh my God.
or Ribbons. Ribbons is phenomenal. too.
Ribbons, White House over here
Yeah,
has
White House.
phenomenal breakfast too.
This is like the town of breakfast. Then you can go antiquing.
Yeah.
The antique shops are
Yep.
great. And then
100%.
come here, get yourself a pizza, because we haven't even talked about it yet. Not only is your beer great,
Yeah.
your pizza is phenomenal.
Thank
And
you.
another shout out to some other firemen.
Yeah.
My buddies in Firefighter 1, the Charlie Company. In order to be part of Charlie, you have to like pineapple pizza. And one of the best pineapple pizzas around is right here. What's the name of that?
That's the Three Little
Little
Pigs.
Pigs, yeah.
But I don't know if that's for everybody here.
Yeah,
I think
well,
we've already heard some dissension.
You know, I'm a purist, and I think, to be fair, I don't put pineapple on my ham. I think pineapple's delicious
I
when
don't
it's
put pineapple in my ham either.
when it's like just
Unless it's
fresh,
on pizza.
cold.
You know what's so good
but
when you
cooked
grill
pineapple.
it over a barbecue grill?
Yeah, throw it on a
Oh,
burger
Man.
with some teriyaki sauce.
I just
now you're
can't do the
talking.
cooked pineapple. It's too sweet and it's weird. I don't know. It's weird. It's got a weird texture. I just can't do
I'm
it.
It's a
allergic
yin
to
and
it.
yang thing.
Are you?
Yeah, our
That's
fans
funny.
know about it, but yeah,
Yep.
there's a chemical called bromine. I lack the enzyme to break it down.
So do not drink in a haze. That
no, I will
has,
drink it.
Okay.
That's my next beer
Okay. Send it. In a haze has some pineapple
Okay, so send it.
additions.
for sure.
So let's jump into that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
So first, I think when you first decided, like, we're going to open a brewery, what
Yeah.
was that process like for you? What did you?
It's
What were you thinking? I guess.
kind of like my wife and I, Mary Jo. Not saying it's midlife crisis, but we have adult age children. I retired. We love going to breweries. I've been home brewing for about 6 years, and we're like, if there was ever a perfect opportunity to do it, timing wise, that was it, right? So it was kind of, I'm not saying midlife crisis because that's oversimplifying it, but it was like I looked at the numbers. I did finance enough to know, okay, I think we could actually make it to be a profitable venture. So we decided we're going to go for it, and we started moving forward. We started exploring locations. Our first thought was maybe like Voorheesville. That seemed to be a glut of an area where there was a need, but we were looking to sell and move away from Albany County and wanted to go up to Saratoga County. So we've been coming to like places like Next Door Kitchen. We did Henry's a few times. We're like, wow, there's really like a need for this in the village of Ballston Spa. It's a hugely blue-collar town that drinks a lot of beer per person, in my opinion. And the type of beers that I like to produce are kind of hit on those notes. I like to do Pilsners, I like to do Ambers. Of course, I like to do IPAs. But we do a balance, and it's not so heavily focused on just New England IPAs and sours that you're seeing a lot of smaller, newer breweries hitting on. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Obviously, they do really well, and if you do one thing really well, you could probably be a pretty profitable nano brewery on its own. But I just like to hit on more of a broader spectrum.
Speaking about a quick shout out to Henry's too, by the way. They got
Henry's.
some great taps over there.
Yeah.
Great beer on tap. Have you been?
Where?
Yeah.
Henry's. It's actually just like a block.
No,
over.
I haven't.
You
Yeah.
gotta check it out. It's
Originally,
definitely worth
Henry's was the type of place that I could see us opening because, like, Henry's, for better or for worse, you get 25 people in there, you're like, wow, this is a happening place. It's a good vibe, right?
it. So you always knew you were gonna open like a brew pub?
No, we wanted to open something with food, and we wanted to keep it simple. That's why the wood-fired pizza. Places that kind of inspired us were Unified. You know, a two-man show could do it themselves. Rare Form, another smaller like place that, you know, if you're like 2 people, we walked into Rare Form, we're like, wow, we can do this. You know, we don't need 12 people. And then we ended up in a place where we have to have about 11 people working.
Well,
at
you
any given
got
time.
too popular. Not too popular.
Not
You got
too
very
popular.
popular
We're
very
big.
quickly.
Yes, and we're a bigger space, so it's more closely aligned with some of the brew pubs than it was a traditional brewery or nano brewery. Yeah.
Like this is your future you.
Oh yeah. No, this is great, and so I mean, I wouldn't even know. I don't know even know if I say it's a brew pub, in that
It just has pizza.
Correct.
Pizza is your only option, but when you do something well, right, you've got a food option, which
Sure.
I think pizza and beer go great together. Wood fire pizza kicks it up a notch.
Sure.
Artisan beer,
Yeah.
craft beer. So it's a good combo.
Yeah.
And then in addition, it keeps it simple, right? Because that's one of the
Sure.
things we talked about too. Adding food adds a whole nother level of complexity. So when you go to a
Right.
place like Druthers, that's a brew pub, right?
Yeah.
But because they have a giant menu,
Huge.
and now you're running 2 businesses,
Correct.
2 totally separate businesses that you're putting under one roof,
Yeah.
and that's hard. That's really, really hard, and to do both well,
Yeah.
right? And so you
I've-
either end up in a really good restaurant with some beer, or you end up with a really good brewery with some mediocre food. So
No, you did it right. You got the proper style pizza
Yeah.
oven. You're doing the
Yeah.
wood fire pizza.
Yep.
The beer's great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and it's got a pig on
Thank
it, which
you.
makes it
Yeah.
just look
Come on.
awesome.
Come on.
And
So-
I was just gonna say, like the last time I was here, I don't know if you guys ever listened to The River, but I ran into Randy McCartan, who just retired from River. He was doing the River Morning Show. I'm just look over, like, Randy, what's going on? He's like, I heard about the pizza. I was
No
like,
kidding.
yeah,
Nice.
man. It's like my 3rd time here. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I've jokingly said that I've always wanted to open a brewery that served wood-fired pizza.
Yeah.
And I always just jokingly say I ended up with a pizzeria that has beer, with good beer.
Well, so far, I mean, the beers that I've had, I've only had 2, but they're good, clean, nice flavors. I haven't had one of the Nipas yet. That'll be next.
Yeah.
And the pizza's coming. So, but ultimately, yeah. I mean, the first one that I had was the amber. That had a nice, just clean flavor.
Malt forward.
Malt
sure.
forward,
Yep.
nice and clean. And then this is the Rebel Rose, which is like a cherry sour, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
So, and that's always nice. So, I think, honestly, it's got a good tartness. It's not overly tart.
Yep.
This one's pretty nice.
Thank you.
You're over there looking like, oh, wow, I got loud real quick. You're over there looking like super professional, like doing looking for the legs and
Yeah, you gotta
Smelling
give it a
and
little.
wafting.
You gotta give it a little
Yeah.
twirl.
Yeah.
You get a little, see how that falls. These
Yep.
are nice glasses because you get to do that,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
I just
we're-
grab a beer and start chugging.
That's it.
That's great.
Yeah.
We try not to hit the 3.1 range in the pH with our sours. We go a little higher than that. Not looking for super sour, just more like a tartness.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on the Berliner that we did at Craftpoint,
I like your Berliner Weiss.
was about the same, like 3.1. So it was.
Yeah, we shoot for like 3.2.
Yeah. So
Yeah, any lower than that, I'm like, ooh.
well,
Yeah.
with the Berliner, we were adding syrup to it,
Yeah.
and that's just straight sugar.
Yep.
And so you need that balance.
Balance.
When you're actually finishing it on cherry.
Yep.
Cherry puree, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to ferment some more potentially
Yep.
as the yeast eat that sugar.
Yep.
So it's going to dry it out even further. So that's a good pH to start with. With a
Yep.
Berliner, I think having it a little
need to go
lower, and
lower.
then adding the syrup,
Yep.
you end up with that similar balance.
Yeah.
But so I think getting back to those questions, what is your favorite beer? What are you most proud of?
Yeah, what's your heart and soul? What's the one that what's your little baby?
I think our signature for me, because I started out aspiring to be the brewer here.
Yep.
And I did like the first 3 or 4 on my own. And then this guy, Terry Halstead, walks into my life and kind of upended my game plan. But prior to that, I was homebrewing Restitution as like my signature go-to NEPA, right? And I love the flavor of that. I love the way it just It's just kind of like, it's modeled after Fiddlehead probably. No, not to copy them, but like Fiddlehead was my go-to everyday drinker. And so I'm like, I'm just going to just kind of model. So for about a year or so, I just kept fiddling around with a recipe.
Fiddling with Fiddlehead.
Fiddling with Fiddlehead to make a recipe that, that resembled it, but was enough that it was my own. So I was pretty proud of Restitution. That was one of the first beers that I gave my partner Randy. He fell in love with it. He thought wow, he's like, if he can produce beer like this, I'm going to go into business with this guy, and we can make beer together. So that one was like a recipe that I created. But lo and behold, then we ended up with this Terry Halstead guy who starts schooling me on how to brew beer, and I let him basically just run away with it, and he just took over most of the menu. But so Restitution is kind of near and dear to my heart.
Awesome.
Don't get me wrong, his In a Haze and his unbelievable beer.
We're asking you, so let's can we get a sample of that?
We can get a sample of everything. We need flights up
I
here.
was just going to say, maybe we can get some flights.
We need.
So let's do
Why don't I'll tell you what.
Yeah, you can get up and go. You can go. We can take a break.
I was going to
good.
say I can, or you can go.
Yeah.
We'll have your version of Steve, whose real name was Carl. Sorry, Carl. I called you like Steve like 3 times in our podcast. But we can have you. We'll have you go. We can take a break, and our audience won't even know. I'll snap my fingers and boom, we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Right on.
Get some flights.
Yeah. So we'll do real quick. We'll do that. We'll do your most popular beer.
Yep.
And then we'll do
1 and 2 actually are both our most popular beers.
Awesome. And then we'll do a sample of what the beautiful Jessica's drinking.
Yeah. Sounds good.
How many? What do you normally do for flights? 4, 5,
4.
6, 4.
Yep.
And then you can add whatever else you want. I'm not going to complain if you're going to give us more.
Oh yeah, we got flights for days.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're the flight attendants over here. That's what I call the bartenders. They're
Right
our
on,
flight
right on.
attendants.
All right. The magic of podcasts. We'll see you in 3, 2, 1. Oh, look, you're
Send
back.
it. Hour and a half podcast out of 3 questions. That's what I want to know.
We're doing it.
We are. We're living it.
We just got to question number 1.
We're
Actually,
living it.
And we talk about a bunch of other random crap, right? It's like,
Yeah, I know. I feel like we were part of the finance hour here for a little while.
that's fine. No, people want to know. It's great having, especially another brewer who's kind of in your position, where he's still new. He's still, he's not a wolf hollow. He's picking your brain, and it's kind of cool because I don't have those kind of questions in my head, and there's people out there who are inspiring to start a brewery. And obviously, like I said, you're doing something right. You definitely did something right as far as your beers go. So I cannot wait until your place opens.
Yeah, the hardest
thanks.
part about being in this brewing part is you get lost in the business of it, and you just stop being a brewer and stop even being able to spend time there, and you get sucked into the emails and the breweries and the business aspect of it, for better or for worse.
well, I think
You
that's
segue away from
that's
it.
a part of it. Like as a startup, right? You have
You gotta do it all.
You're an entrepreneur, right? So you got to do it all, and that's what I was doing, and frankly, still working my day job, which was brutal, because I would work normal day hours, then go work at the brewery and brew till midnight, 1 a.m.
Jeez.
It's a 6-hour brew day. But
Sure. Home brew takes 6 hours.
Exactly.
7 barrels takes 6 hours. It
Right.
doesn't matter the size. It
Exactly.
takes 6 hours. Yep.
And so you have to figure that in, and then you're like, okay, as the brewer, I'm building recipes, designing stuff. So if I'm not at the brewery, I'm still sitting down working on the brewery.
Sure.
Then my partner was Carl, who did a bunch of the finances stuff.
That's Steve.
You still, yeah, exactly. And Steve was our third partner, working on the background stuff. So you're wearing all those hats, right? So
Right.
so
Yeah.
you've got a partner named Randy.
Yep.
That we met a little while ago.
Yep. RJ, Randy, Kelly, and my wife Mary Jo.
Yeah, so there's a couple of you. So how does the breakdown work for you guys? Do you each kind of have your own sort of area that you focus on? Are you sharing different responsibilities?
Sure. There's overlap, clearly, but the day-to-day, especially the brew, making sure beer is flowing from those taps falls on me. And fortunately, with Terry, the dude's just been a rock star.
So you get to
taken
just
on a
check
lot.
out most of the time is what you're saying. You're like, all right, cool, I got somebody to take care of my spot, everybody else.
And he gets to just let me drink. I wish that were true.
That's a great circumstance.
I wish that were true.
So walk us through a typical day for you. What does that
Sure.
What does that look like?
I'm here in the mornings, working with Terry as much as I can, dealing with the business aspect of it. Once 4 o'clock or once 2 o'clock rolls around, it's getting the tap room ready for service. As you can see, even while we were here, I'm changing kegs, I'm taking care of phone calls, we're dealing with customers, dealing with the pizza end of it. There's just a lot that goes into it. The pizza part of it is like the beast, right? Like the beer end is kind of, especially as long as the kegs are filled and you got good people knowing how to serve beer, we're good. The pizza end of it that's a lot. It's much more labor intensive.
How'd you also perfect pizza?
When it was good fortune to fall into dealing with the Fierro group down in Brewster, New York. I was looking for wood-fired ovens. I ended up doing a lot of research online, and these guys here perfected this rotating deck, right? So I became intrigued. It's definitely an investment, but it's one less person you have to have there, like manning the pizza oven, spinning it, and changing positions of the pizza.
So for those listening at home, that means that the inside of the oven actually spins.
I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is awesome. So because
It's a
in a lot of
manpower
cases,
saver.
right, in a lot of cases you just have a flat surface inside there where somebody has to sit there and reach to the back of the oven, pull to the forward, and constantly rotating,
Lots
spinning.
of hot spots, tons of hot spots, lots of burnt pizzas on one edge, not so well done on the other. This here eliminates that. You pop it in, takes about 5 or 6 passes in about varying time, 4 to 6 minutes, and you're done. We can crank it up and have these pizzas done in about 90 seconds. It's insane how the efficiency of this pizza oven.
And for those that have
awesome.
been to like Blaze or those places that do like fast pizza, that you'll notice there's a guy still sitting there spinning pizzas and doing stuff. We just got one, right?
Yeah.
So this is the chicken bacon ranch?
Do you have your phone?
I do.
Can you take a photo of that for our listeners?
Yeah.
That looks beautiful. Oh, we
Good
got
looking
another
pie.
one?
Oh yeah, we got chicken bacon ranch and the My Boy Blue.
All right.
That looks incredible. Let me get another one over
Yeah,
here.
second that one. Oh, it smells good. I can smell
That's
it.
a good pie.
Oh man, right on.
Yeah. So we went down and spent a couple days with the pizza chef there at the test kitchen.
Yep.
Had no idea who we were dealing with. And then at the end of the 2 days, thank you, one of the sales reps was like, so what'd you think of Mark? And I'm like, yeah, he's a good guy. They're like, do you know who that is? And I'm like, no. Like, that's Mark Hopper from out in California. He's one executive chef at the French Laundry.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, the legitimate like Michelin star chef. And I'm like, had no idea, but I should have realized because he wasn't paying any attention to us. He's just like, yeah, you guys are doing great. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
So he made your pizza?
No, he taught us how to make.
Oh, how to make the pizza.
Taught us how to make dough, how to stretch dough, and we
That's
spent
so
2
crazy.
days with him. Intensive. It was just us and him.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was a guy that worked for Fierro and didn't know he was a Michelin-rated chef.
I didn't know the his name, but I know French Laundry. I mean, it's a famous,
yeah.
it's probably
Yeah.
the most famous.
One of the most famous places on, obviously on California. That was the one that Gavin Newsom got.
I was
got
just gonna
filmed.
say that, but I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if we want to go there.
It don't
but,
matter.
But
This
yeah,
guy
that's
not
the-
wearing a mask. The hypocrisy.
Yeah. Mass,
sons of guns.
rules for thee, but not for me. So you guys, it's not like this is a separate group that came in and is doing pizzas for you. Like you guys, these are your employees.
This is me.
This is all part of
Yep.
the Speckled Pig
Yep.
experience, if you will.
So
Speaking of-
we've been open for about 5 months. In the first 3 to 4 months of it, my day, when you say day to day, I would come in every morning and make 2 batches of dough, get about 150 doughs ready for service the next day, and then I would go and start brewing beer.
Yep.
It was intense. So
See-
I was splitting my time between making pizza dough and making beer. And I would
Yeah.
actually literally start the boil kettles, and get the mash up the temperature, and then I would run over here and get the dough going. It was crazy.
See, and that's the entrepreneurial spirit. That's what I love about this industry, especially because, again, it's all artisan, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, and then how do I best use my time? I know I need time to do this. That's got to wait, so I in between can do those things. So I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So if we can jump into a little bit, like, as you're kind of starting this up and you're like, okay, this was your sole focus, right? You were
Sure.
This was full time. Once you guys started, you were full in it
Yep.
and ready to rock.
Yep.
And so, what was that process like for you? Did you come from like you're like I'm going to leave my job or my day job and go do this thing, or what kind of
Yeah,
just talk about what that was like?
So my wife was full time doing ultrasound. She'd been doing that for 20
Like
years
radiology
now.
or PT?
Pregnancy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she
So
was
radiology,
OBGYN. Yeah. And she just decided we're going to leave that behind and we're going to go and we're going to start this tap room. Like we didn't see beyond the tap room, right? We thought that the tap room was going to be like the end all be all and we would be spending all our time here. Which we have been to this point, and now we are starting to explore the options of distribution, which is a separate beast all of its own,
sure.
right?
It is.
Now you got to worry about cold storage, you got to worry about additional fermentation tanks,
Delivery.
delivery. Well, so
Sales. I mean, just
Yeah.
getting accounts.
Yeah. So that's what we're segueing into right now, and we are looking. So probably by March, knock on wood, you will see our tap handles on different pubs throughout the capital region, and then in about 3 months later, we're hoping to start seeing our cans in different places. So
Awesome.
that's the move.
And
This is very small to be doing that. I know you look back at those tanks and you're like, oof, how you doing that? But
Are you going to do mobile canning? Like have somebody come in mobile
No.
can, or are you going to?
we explored that. We looked at the cost, and there's not a lot of meat left on the bone there.
Go ahead. Say
Okay.
No, I know.
So I just got to say, I took my first bite of this pizza. This dough is incredible.
Thank you.
That is incredible.
You hear that, Vin?
And the dough is wicked good. The dough, it's wicked good.
Now everybody in the World Wide Web
For
knows.
real. And I'm totally a pizza snob. I gotta admit.
Yeah.
Like, the dough is
It's
everything.
legit.
The dough is everything.
Sure.
It is really nice.
Yep.
What's that? 3 generations? Legit.
4 if you had me. All right, 4 generations.
It is delicious. It's really, really good.
Grab a piece.
Well
of that.
done. Well done. Yeah, while you guys were chatting, I was like, this pizza's sitting here. I gotta grab a bite.
You got to get it when it's fresh.
How'd you come up with the name Speckled Pig?
So we're in New York State Farm Brewery, right? So it's kind of like a lot of people, even before I started home brewing, I didn't know any better. I would go to breweries, right? I always liked craft beer. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if you guys remember a place called the Big House back in Albany.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure, right? Way ahead of its time.
Yep.
Right?
As a matter of fact,
20 years ahead of its time.
Rich and Drew
Yeah.
from Frog Alley, that's the Big House.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
And again, they were way ahead of their time.
Way
because
ahead
back
of
then
their
it was
time.
like, you can't do craft beer in down like on Pearl Street.
No.
Everybody's going out. They're going to Jillian's. They're going to
Right.
Big House. They
Yep.
want mixed drinks.
Yep.
They want dance music. They want
No, we went to McGeary's and I wanted Miller Lite.
Exactly.
That's what I wanted.
And
I
nobody was
remember-
thinking about all the different
No,
like aspects of craft beer.
No, I remember walking into the Big House. I was, I don't know, maybe 30 years old. And I remember being like, ugh, what do you have that tastes like a Miller Lite? And then literally they handed me a beer. And I was like, ugh, all right, I guess I'll drink this. This is before they started doing, I don't know if you remember the evolution, but they only were serving their beer at first. And then they segued into Coors Light.
Yep.
And they started doing more offerings. But I remember even having their first beer, turning my nose up on it, right? And then you start developing a palate for it because for my whole adult life, all you had was Miller Lite, Coors Light, right?
Bud Light.
Bud Light. Yep.
Yep.
So I fast forwarded, into start brewing my own beer, and then you start the realization of what goes into providing your grains and your hops. You don't realize how connected you are to the farm until you start brewing your own beer.
What did you soak these onions in?
We soak those in love and
What's up with the onions? Like they're
honey.
not pick. Oh, okay, it's
They're
honey.
honey.
It's not. I'm
It's
like they're
honey.
not.
Yes, that's a honey
There's
finish.
like,
Yes.
Yeah, there's sweet. There's almost like a blue cheese flavor to it.
It's so the onions actually it's
The
all
bacon.
finished in honey.
Wow.
Yep, and it's the bacon is applewood smoked.
Nice.
Yeah.
And there's actually apple in it.
Oh yeah, that's the My Boy Blue.
This
That
is
was gangbusters. It started off as a special, and then there was a mutiny when we weren't serving it, so we're like, nah, just put it on the menu.
yeah. I mean, this combination of the So there is blue cheese in it, right?
Oh yeah.
All right, so that's
Yep.
obviously the blue.
It's the salty sweet thing that
Yeah.
everybody loves and everything, the yin and the yang.
But I'm grabbing the onions, and they're not like overly sweet, and they're not vinegary. So I was like,
no, those are the reds that we just like braise for a while and then basically just butter and shallots and then hit it with honey at the end.
so this is a red onion.
Yeah, that one is. The other ones, that's the only one that has a red onion in it.
Yeah.
See, I hate that we are a pizzeria. Damn it, I just wanted to be a brewery.
No, but listen, I'll say this: like, if you're out for a beer,
Yeah,
you're like, I'm gonna have a beer, maybe two, and then I'm immediately gonna be like, I need food.
right.
And so, the draw for me as a brewer and as a beer lover is always beer.
Sure.
Having food is sort of like, that's an expectation. If there's no food there, then I'm going to probably have two, and then I'm going to go find food.
Two. And
This
statistically,
pizza-
one.
Exactly. And for people who aren't like me and,
Sure.
you know,
Right.
or like I got to at least try multiple beers,
Yep.
that's totally the case. So far of the beers I've tried, and again, I've been kind of sipping on this guy.
That's
which
your
was
Sanssouci?
Sanssouci, yeah.
Yep.
Which is also nice. This is, and you were talking a little bit about
Yeah.
kind of the history of this.
That was happenstance.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so as brewers, this is kind of what happens. You figure out a way. You just brewed a bunch of beer.
Sure.
You're not going to dump it, right?
Nope, you
You're
brew
going to
100.
sell it.
You know what the funny thing is? So with that Sanssouci, that's my first attempt on our new system. Like I've brewed New England IPAs successfully on a 5 and 10 gallon scale. So one of the first batches of beer we brewed here was this New England IPA recipe that I'd had and tried and true. It was awesome on a homebrew level. I whipped out 115 gallons of it and was like, this is not a New England IPA anymore. It's a very tasty beer, but it's not what I intended. But man, people loved it, and I'm like, it's a pale ale.
Yep.
You know, so
A New England pale.
Correct.
So let me ask you,
Correct.
as far as that goes, when you were scaling your recipe from a homebrew level to
Yeah.
this pro level,
Yeah.
what was the hardest part for you? What did you think was like? Was it? I mean, because it's almost like grain is kind of easy. You know how much sugar you're going to get per pound. You know what your
Wow.
water to grist ratio is.
Yeah.
Those are easy.
Yep.
But as you're talking about here, scaling an IPA recipe where
Yep.
the hop, you get,
Yep.
you're going to get different hop efficiencies at
Sure.
small scale versus large scale.
Yep. It's not a true, like with the grains, you know, it's a whatever 10 to 1 ratio. With hops, it's a curve, right? It's a learning curve, because then it's all a matter of, ooh, I don't like that much hops. Next time I'm going to go less, or next time I'm going to go more. You know, we all use that, especially for a New England IPA, 3 pounds per barrel, right, as the maximum that you're going to use. I don't particularly like hop burn, so I try to err on the side of lower rather than higher. But you're a brewer, so you can appreciate, like I use Beersmith for my recipe creations and to scale it. So it was almost like a learning curve, right? We use Beersmith. Terry uses like Brewer's Friend, I think is what he prefers. So you don't really know, and especially, can you imagine firing up the first time you're firing up your brew house, going from a home brew to be like, okay guys, let's fire this 3.5 barrel system up and let's see what we're going to come up with. So we did that. Our numbers were way off, our gravities were way off, and our beers as a result were lower in ABV than we had originally intended. You try to make up for it with all types of different sugars, and at the end of the day, that's not going to impact flavor. It's going to affect your ABV, but your flavors are going to be muted.
Yeah.
They're gonna be
At
muted.
some point it will.
Right.
If you just kind of start just adding like maltose, like one of the things as a home brewer.
Sure, maltodextrin, we use lactose.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't use lactose. I've kind of been steering away from that, especially for NEPAs. But
I like lactose just for the texture, even.
But then you have to tell people that there's lactose in it, because the
we
people who are
just-
lactose intolerant.
We just had an inquiry tonight.
It
Yep.
changes the way you think about things
Correct.
as a pro brewer. When
Yep.
you were like at home, it's like I could experiment with anything and it doesn't really matter. I'm going to drink it,
Yep.
and I know that anybody, you know. But
I'll use dextrose, maltodextrin.
as a pro, you're like, I have to let people know. As soon as you put lactose in there, anybody with a lactose allergy
Yeah.
has to be aware that that's in your beer, and you got to
Sure.
actually label it
Yeah.
everywhere.
You know, it's funny.
I didn't think about that stuff.
No, and even to this day, for better or for worse, maybe it's because I'm humble, but I don't think of myself as a pro brewer. You know, and
But
I'm
you
not.
are.
But I'm not.
Well, I mean, you have a brewer
Yes.
now, but just to
Correct.
say, like, you were the original brewer
Correct.
here,
Yeah.
and this is your brewery. So
it's very humbling. It really
yeah,
is. And,
yeah.
and like, because I know pro brewers, I'm not in their league, you know, but like, I love our beer. I think a lot of people really love our beer. Like, Terry's been a tremendous asset. He's a great brewer. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I don't consider myself in leagues like with other pro brewers, but
totally.
But here we are.
Listen, I homebrewed
Right?
for about 12 years. We were open for 6 months, and again, just wasn't a conducive thing. But putting all that aside, I'm like, I have so much still to learn, and
I have so much to learn.
and
as
the
well.
thing is,
Yeah.
like,
I like that you can appreciate that.
I'm
yeah.
a geek, and so even while I was a home brewer, I just could not absorb enough information. And when I went pro and started, you know, Craftpoint, I still can't absorb enough information.
Right.
I'm like,
I'm on YouTube.
Put the
I'm
fire hose
listening
on
to,
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube almost every day, like watching different breweries,
Yep.
brewers' techniques. I'm listening to like podcasts constantly. But now, unfortunately, I've segued away from like brewing techniques to the business of
yeah.
brewing. And I'm not saying I hate that about myself, but it's like out of necessity that I've
have to,
segued
yeah.
away from like brewing techniques about how to reduce oxygen pickup and things of that nature, or about the newest hops that are coming out, experimental hops from New Zealand. Like, I've gotten away from those podcasts and gotten into like the business of like how to increase your margins at the tap room. I'm like, oh my God, I want to kick myself
got
in the
it.
ass.
And that's
right?
the thing. You have to sort of step
Yep.
into those places. Now,
Yeah.
one of my brewing heroes and sort of business heroes is Sam Calagione, right? Dogfish Head.
Wow, he's unbelievable.
He's I will say
he was the recipient of good timing.
Well,
as
I will
well.
say the dude is actually also just a really awesome guy.
Yeah.
So he was here. I met him in Clifton Park. He was at the Rusty Nail, like
Jeez.
6 months ago.
No shit.
Maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
And so we were supposed to actually transfer beer that night, and because we were at Frog Alley, we were using their equipment. All the hoses were set up for the next day of brewing, and like we had a couple of snags, and I was like, "Screw it, let's just
you
go.
gotta go.
Let's just go. We're gonna
Sure.
go up and meet."
No, he's a legend in this industry.
But because I'm a geek and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna bring up a couple beers, so I brought to the Rusty Nail. Like I brought up a couple of our crowlers,
Cool.
and had him try some of our beers, and so he's so into the business side, but still has that heart of a brewer. And even with his brewers, he's got his master brewer and those guys. He's still involved in that sort of day to day. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I want a beer that does this, and let's talk about it. And then there's a collab thing.
I think he's gotten into distilling more now.
There's
He's
that
into
too.
that now.
They've done that
Yeah.
for quite a while. But
Yeah.
still, he gave me notes on the beer and was
That's
like, "This is
cool.
pretty good." And he's like, "What yeast did you use here? What are these?" And like one of them was our rye pale ale. So
Yeah.
we usually
I like
hear-
that beer.
Did you try that one?
I
What
will
did I
tell
say?
you,
That's my favorite beer.
That was so when I had that, I literally told Pete, I'm like, whoa, I like that beer. It's unique. I like that.
Yeah, because everybody's doing either a rye PA
I never
or
have
a
rye.
Rogan's beer,
I
which
wanna
is
try
a
that.
dark.
I
what's
never
the rye
heard of that.
PA?
No, the Rogan beer.
Oh, the Rogan's beer
I
is
never
like
heard of that one.
It's a German style, like traditional German style dark rye, and there's like it's 80% of the grist. I mean, it's a lot
That's
of rye.
why. That's why I want to try it.
And so
Yeah.
it's really good.
I like the rye that Pete brought over. It was
Awesome.
really good.
Thank you.
That
It's
was
very
really good.
It's very crisp.
Yep.
Very refreshing. When you have a like you say a rye IPA, they're good. I love the
But
flavor.
they're so hop forward, you lose
See,
the rye.
and
Yeah,
you
but
feel it in the back of
typically-
the throat. And
Typically, it takes a lot to surprise you, right?
Yeah.
As somebody who drinks craft beer every day,
Yeah.
you don't get surprised often. That one was good.
Thank
was
you,
good.
thank
That
you.
one was really good.
So-
Yeah, I like that one.
I appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
but my point is that he's still, and again, just such a down to earth dude. He was really really cool, and he was like, "Yeah, let's try some brews and like good luck to you and all that stuff." He was half in the bag because he had been doing things all over
Yeah.
Capital Region
Yeah.
with D. Crescenti. They were taking him all these different places.
Oh yeah, they just started carrying. That's why.
And
The
so,
launch.
so he was in here. Well, I actually thought he might be here because, what is a single cut? I think was potentially, and I don't know if I'm saying anything here,
No.
but they were potentially talking about maybe selling Single Cut North, which is Clifton Park. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, wheels are turning. Is Dogfish gonna buy, or Sam
Yeah.
Adams,
Is
somebody
there-
gonna
is
buy?
there
like,
some reason why
is there
he's
a
up here?
Yeah, why would you be here? But anyway,
Cut that.
so
I will.
yeah, don't. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. But my point is, getting
Could be
back to what you were
speculation.
talking about before.
Could be fake news. Who knows? Hey, anybody who's listening to this podcast to get their news, they've done something
for
wrong.
reals. But my point is that what you're doing is exactly that, right? It's you can still be involved and have some direction in the beers that you want to see.
Sure.
But you have somebody who you can task with, hey, go and design this beer, and still get into every other facet of the business, which you have to do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I know, like, so there's so
Time
many
out. We gotta watch
brewers.
the magic.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're getting off camera, man. What's the matter?
Oh my word,
Isn't that good? Isn't that
that
good
is
pie?
amazing,
Isn't that good pie?
dude.
That's good.
The My Boy Blue.
Oh, I need a minute.
Right? That's the best pizza.
I need a minute.
I wanted to get his reaction on camera.
This
is-
His reaction was so big he went off camera.
This
And
is
then
my
came
number
back.
one
All right.
pizza. That's my number two.
So I'm talking to the guys that made it. That is
Vinny and
incredible.
Mary.
Again,
And
the
Noel.
dough is really good. The blue cheese, that nice, just it cuts through.
Rich.
It cuts through the,
The apple
sweetness.
cuts through the
Well,
yeah.
it cuts through the sweetness that you get from the apple and from the honey.
Yeah.
It's a very nice. Yeah, it's creamy, and it also just is. Man, that's a great combo.
It's an amusement park for your taste buds, is what it is.
Oh, that is so good. I'm gonna now be quiet for a little while so I can eat this. Holy.
Yeah, that's a good pie.
I'm gonna have to bring one of these home for my wife.
That's
I'm telling you.
I've seen it on the menu. This is my fourth time here.
Yeah.
I've seen it on the menu, and it's never. I was just like, it looks good, but I don't know if I
No.
want to try it.
No, you gotta
There's
just
like,
commit.
yeah, there's other stuff that I wanted to try, so I ended up doing it. Oh my god, that is.
Yeah.
That is good.
So it's funny because
I
like,
love blue cheese too.
Yeah. And it's good. Where do you get your blue cheese? Because that's.
we make our blue cheese.
Are you kidding?
No, of course I'm kidding. I don't
Okay,
know where
good.
we make our pizza.
Well, there's like a place locally. I don't know if it's
No, unfortunately, it's not that artisanal, but it is a really good high quality blue
Yeah,
cheese
it
that
was-
we get from U.S. Foods, where we get our most of our stuff.
It tastes. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, you can taste that it's a higher quality of blue cheese.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's awesome. Dude, that's like our pretzels here. I don't know if you had our pretzels.
No.
We make the beer cheese.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I will say,
Yeah.
we make our. But people are like, "Oh my God, this is the best pretzel ever." I'll be like, "I make these every single day." And they're like, "Oh my God, you can tell." I'm like, "No, people, it's fake news, but it is good pretzel."
Well, I will say, like you were saying, the dough is good. It's almost like it's fried dough, is what it is.
That is that.
It's so soft and
Yeah,
just,
it's-
it's really really
like take
good.
it like you go to a fair and you try fried dough.
It's funny you say that
And then you-
because we do have like
The texture of it is.
we have a high sugar content, which it's not Neapolitan. Originally, I started off, I want to do a 00. I want to do Neapolitan. You know what? Upstate New York, you know what we don't really love, but we love the idea of? Neapolitan,
no.
straight Neapolitan pizza. Neapolitan pizza does not get this crust on the
No.
bottom, and it's soggy. For better or for worse, we all in upstate New York romanticize about Neapolitan pizza, but Neapolitan pizza is not what we've come to know and
No.
love in upstate New York. This is New Yorkapolitan is what
Yeah.
I say. It's a high concentration of 00, but it is not 100% like
Yeah, you
you would
definitely
see
get the
in
fluffy.
Italy.
Yeah.
We get fluffy, and then what I've kind of changed
Crispy,
in it,
flaky
and,
almost.
and it's all fine. We use a little bit of brown sugar
Yep.
in the dough
For
to
the
add
richness.
that crisp
Yep.
and that sweetness to get that fried dough type
Yeah.
consistent or flavor.
Yeah.
So we do that as well.
But
Yeah.
it's not overly sweet either.
No, it's not sweet.
Not even close. Like.
No.
And-
But it gives that char. It adds to char because it has a lower caramelization point, has a lower point at which you'll get burn on the crust.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
It's good. It's
It
great.
produces that Maillard reaction
Yeah.
that we all know and love.
Yes.
See, that's geekdom right there.
That is. See,
So
you're in the-
your word of the night is Maillard reaction.
Yeah.
And the next time we meet, I'm gonna be like, "What is that?" And he's gonna go,
That's an
"I don't know."
example right there.
Yeah.
It's the change. It's a change in color. It's like caramelization. So in beer, we talk about Maillard reaction.
Yes.
In where
Do you have your camera again?
during the boil,
Yep.
I'll put this right up on the website so people can see it.
Oh,
during
hell yeah.
during the boil and various things like that, where things that caramelized color comes from. In food, it's the same idea. You see that browning.
We
I
try
actually-
to avoid it in our NEPAs.
I actually went to school for culinary too, so you think I would know that. But I'm like 40 some odd years old. This was
Schenectady County?
Yeah.
Nice. We've tried to foster a relationship with Jay Larkin over there, and we ended up with students from their program in brewing. So
We're actually.
Well, that's how Pete. Is that how you guys got hooked up with Pete?
that's exactly how we got hooked up with Pete.
Yeah, shout out to Pete. He worked for us for a little bit.
We're waiting for a turnover. I thought his internship expired about 7 months ago, but he just hangs on.
He's looking to make that thing work. So
No, he's great.
So
I met him today. So he seems like a.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy. So let's step through some brews. We got a bunch of
Yeah.
brews.
I was going to say we're at 110. So let's. What's
So number one, that's our In a Haze. That is Terry's personally favorite recipe. It has a little bit of pineapple added.
I taste a pineapple.
It is definitely a pineapple forward beer.
Is it pineapple juice or pineapple like puree? What do they use?
Pineapple juice added to the dry hop.
Wow.
In
So
addition
secondary,
to,
kind of.
secondary, yep. In addition to the hops that really bring out a lot of the pineapple flavor. Yep.
So I got to say this has a nice. It's got a nice creamy head. And you poured these a while ago, so
Yeah.
It's
the
still staying true, yeah.
long-lasting
Yeah.
head. So that's
Yep.
definitely extra protein and
There's
so
a
on.
lot of flaked product in there.
Yep. So
Yep.
are you doing flaked oats and flaked wheat? Are you doing mostly flaked oats?
Both flaked oats and flaked wheat, probably a 50-50 blend of the two, and then we've got some, I wouldn't say proprietary method how we get additional flaked product in there, but I'm not giving away
You can
Terry's
say
secrets.
you can.
You're doing something
Don't
different.
give away the secrets, but sell the myth.
Yeah,
Right?
no, it's that's actually, so between that and our restitution, the number one beer in a haze and restitution, we toggle back and forth every week. I look at our analytics of what sold the most, and that is our number
That's
one
so
and
crazy.
number two, and our number two and number one, literally.
So your heart and soul is basically your crazy crowd. These are too.
Dude, not only that, between our New England IPAs, but our number 3 seller behind those two, and obviously, for better or for worse, our New England IPAs are always it pays the bills in every brewery. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, if you take away those two, the best-selling beer after that is just our Checks and Balances, it's Czech Pilsner.
Is that the four?
That is our number 4 beer. It's called Checks and Balances, and it's Czech Pilsner, and literally it originated from when so many people came in here and was
Looking
like,
for Bud
what do
Light.
you have that tastes like Coors Light? I'm like, I don't know what we have, but I'm going to make it, and here's what it is. So, and ever since we've introduced that beer, it's been our number 3 seller.
Believe it or not, I've learned to, since doing this podcast, I've
Yeah.
learned to appreciate those kinds of beers.
Well,
They're the
it's
hardest
funny.
to make.
Yeah, it is, and it's funny
There's
because
no place to hide in those beers.
every
You
brewer,
got to get it right.
And I was breaking his chops earlier because I was like, he walked in and I was like, he ended up having an amber. Every single brewer that walks in here has the Oktoberfest, and now that the Oktoberfest is offline, has the amber.
Yeah.
I was like, what is with you guys? It's so pretentious that you guys don't drink the New England IPAs. They're like, no, this is how you tell a good brewery from.
It is. It is. It's
is.
like seriously, a measure of a good brewer
Yeah.
is not the hoppy stuff because that's easy to hide behind.
You can, like a stout, you can
Yeah,
hide
you-
behind
you
a
can
lot.
hide behind
You can
it.
throw chocolate in there, and you can throw hops
correct.
behind it.
But those ambers, pilsners, those take a little bit more precision where you can tell the quality of a brew.
Sure.
And so, like my rye, that's
phenomenal.
thank you again. But
Very
I'm
crisp.
just using it as an example. It's
Yeah.
not hop forward. There's not a lot of place to hide.
Right.
The rye has to be present, but it's a delicate
balance.
flavor.
It's a balancing act.
Right.
Because rye can be overpowering, just
It
like in a
can.
bourbon.
It can.
Like a lot of people, like I always used to say when, like, my grandfather used to order a rye Manhattan, I'd be like, "What?"
Yeah.
You know, because you're like, it takes a while for you to appreciate that flavor, right?
Absolutely.
You
I
have
love
to mature to that.
I love Scotch and I
Yeah.
love rye whiskey.
I love
those
rye
are my
whiskey.
two.
Yep.
So anything
when I
from
order
Isla,
Manhattan, I go for a rye instead of a bourbon.
right on.
Yep.
Anything
Yeah.
from Isla for a Scotch,
Yep.
and that's a region of
Yeah.
Scotland, just so, for the listeners.
I'll try it.
And, oh man! And so like Ardbeg is my favorite Scotch. It's peaty. Like it goes through
See, I'm not a
three.
big fan of the peat moss.
I am.
But here's
I
the
do
deal.
not. No.
I like
It goes through 3 different phases. You take a sip of that, you're like, oh, there's some alcohol,
Yeah.
and you get that normal Scotch flavor. Then it goes into this like earthy, peaty flavor, and then it finishes smoky. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa! It's really, really good. And then just a good rye whiskey. And I'll say Albany Distillery, they have a really good rye that they also aged. I think it's a wine barrel, and I don't totally remember.
Port wine, probably.
No, it's a. I don't want to misquote it.
Yeah.
I think they do it once a year, and it's really good. I mean, they age it in wine barrels, and that wine and rye, oh man, it's delicious.
That does sound good. Like a certain sweetness to, because rye kind of gives, like you've mentioned, it has like a spiciness to it, but it's also got a little bit of a sweetness to it. So I can see it going well
it's a really good blend. So I just want to come back to this pineapple one before we move on.
Yeah.
Again,
Anybody
this
have
is
an EpiPen?
this is nice, and I do.
You'll be all right.
No,
You'll be
I
all
left
right.
it home. Normally I do because I'm
Nah.
allergic to bees, which I think we talked about. The
You're
last
gonna be
one.
all right.
Found out allergic to bees. That's not a cool thing. No, but this has a nice subtle pineapple. What are the hops in this one?
Don't quote me.
Gonna put you on the spot.
Don't quote me.
It's nice. It's pillowy. It's got a nice soft mouthfeel.
I'm sure
and
Citra Amarillo.
Amarillo. Actually,
I was gonna say Mosaic.
no. I think it's hard because I do smell that pineapple. It's like it's really
Simcoe.
Simcoe. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm not a big fan of Simcoe. This is good,
Well,
See, I love El Dorado.
but I could see the Simcoe.
I
But there's
despise
no-
El Dorado. See,
So
that's
does
what's
my
weird.
brewer.
Yeah.
Yep, but I love it.
don't like El Dorado, but I do like Simcoe is delicious,
Yep.
and
Think
it
so?
lends to that juicy
Yep.
flavor.
Kind of has a cat pea flavor.
Simcoe.
Yeah, like
It
a
did-
burnt cat pea.
You know,
I think
that's
if
not
you
appealing to
overdo
even
it-
talk about.
You don't taste it in this though. I like this beer.
I'm glad you don't taste cat pea.
I do
take
taste
that
it-
as a compliment.
I think on the back end, I do taste a little of that burnt.
Cat pea.
No.
So here's the question: how have you ever smelled or tasted not just cat pee, but burnt cat pee? That's a very specific
I'm very good at like smelling and tasting. Like I can smell something and tell you what I'm gonna taste.
And then you
And
know
that's-
what it's going to smell like after it's burnt.
That's what I'm saying. That's a bizarre combo. Like I have a good sniffer as a brewer. You kind of that's one of the
I
the
really
things.
don't. I'm
Yeah.
lying.
Yeah.
But I do. I get that pineapple and citrus, which is definitely Citra. But I don't sense, and Simcoe makes sense because it's got some juicy quality.
And there's
I taste
so-
the Simcoe in the back end.
Yeah. And it's funny because like the New York hops that we end up using has, I mean, for better, I hate to say it, but like there is a very low amount of flavor profile extracted from the New York hops.
So
I'm just disappointed with.
that's why
I mean,
we
I don't
didn't do
want to talk
farmhouse.
about it. I don't want to like disparage it on a podcast, but it's hard to come up with really flavorful New
Yeah.
York hops.
And-
The malts, great, zero problems using it. It's like the Empire malt that we get, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I've used that.
It's phenomenal. They're having a hard time stocking the Pilsen right now. We don't have a problem on our scale, but if we were a 100-barrel brew house, or 50-barrel rather, producing 100 barrels at a time, from what I understand, it's hard to find the Pilsen malt. But the 2-row from Empire, it's phenomenal. I've got no problem with that at all.
Yeah,
it's great.
I've used that too.
It's great.
And it's not bad. It's a decent tasting malt, but at that point you're kind of building as like your base, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming you're using other
Sure.
adjunct malts and
Yep.
other.
Yep.
But so we didn't end up going farmhouse because I didn't want to be limited by New York. And what's interesting is like historically, New York was a hop center, right? It was one of the places that you go
Yeah.
for hops. We had amazing
Sure.
hops here, but that was pre-prohibition.
Right.
Now,
100 years ago.
right now
Yep.
they're trying to bring some of that back, but it's just not ready yet. And there's places like Cornell that are trying to do some research into it. They're working with like Omegang,
Yep.
and if you go to Omegang, you see all those hop fields in the back. They're doing experimental hops back
Yeah.
there, and so on.
Yep.
I just don't think the state is there yet.
No, and it's
to
hard
really
to get,
support breweries.
And it's hard to get like a Citra hop, which is like the 2-row of the hop family, right? Like 90% when you're doing a New England IPA, you'll start with a base of Citra, and then you'll grow on that, right? That flavor profile. So they're having a hard time duplicating a Citra type hop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Awesome. Sorry, my mouth is full. I'm still eating this pizza.
What do you
and,
think?
and that's where the terroir stuff really comes into play.
Sure, right?
So
the Pacific Northwest, it's not
Right.
just for great marijuana, it's also a perfect growing environment for all weeds.
Which is a cousin
Of ayahuasca?
Correct.
Cannabis is a cousin of hops.
I know.
They're related.
Yep.
They're binds. There's another word for you for today,
Binds.
Nick. Binds. They're not vines, binds.
Binds.
And so,
The vines of binds.
Yep.
so what's number 2 here? What else we got?
Number 2 is my own homebrew restitution. It's
the
another.
original.
It's very similar to, I mean, in profile to In a Haze. Yeah. Some subtle differences. A lot of Centennial hops in that one.
I love that hop.
Love
As a
it.
matter of fact,
Love it.
that was one of my so Hello World was Centennial, largely Centennial. I don't know if you remember that beer from Craftpoint.
I love Centennial.
remember Hello
Centennial
World.
Centennial is so diverse because
It's great.
if
you
you
can
use
it
it
in a boil.
exactly, that's what I was just going to say. You can
You
use
get
it
bitter.
early
Yep.
and you use it late, and it's
Yep.
got some juicy qualities,
Sure.
some of that citrus, but it also it's just got some really good characteristics.
Yep.
And when I first did Hello World, when I was starting homebrew, I was like, I did a bunch of smash beers,
Yeah.
right? It was like single malt, single hop,
for
right?
sure. Yep.
And so,
That's what we're doing with Foreplay. Yep.
right on.
Yep.
So you get to learn how that stuff is. So I did Vienna malt and Centennial.
Ooh, that's a high concentration of Vienna malt.
I will say it was 100% Vienna,
Wow.
and it was exquisite. It was one of the first beers that I brewed as a home brewer when I started developing my own recipes, where I was
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Not too malty, huh?
And no,
I would think.
but it's a base malt.
Yeah.
And this was
It's not a base malt that's used right now.
it's not. But that
Right.
what I found with it was
It's not.
it had great conversion, and the flavor of it was really good. And I was like, why isn't more people use it as like 20%, 30%? And I just wanted to know what it tasted like by itself.
Yeah.
It actually was really, really nice as a base malt. And I was surprised by it, but teamed that up with Centennial, and I did 60, 30, 15, 0,
Okay.
and just got the spread of
That's
Centennial.
a lot. That's
And
a lot of hops.
Well, it wasn't.
Yep.
It wasn't. It was maybe an ounce and a half over
Oh, okay.
as a home brewer.
Yeah. So we've kind of given up on when we were making a NEPA. We don't do boil hops.
Oh, this wasn't a
Fine.
NEPA. This was just a pale ale, like
Gotcha.
a clear,
Gotcha.
classic pale. And I was
Yep.
just like, let's throw this together.
Sure.
And it surprised me. It looks like I don't know if your phone died.
It did.
It surprised me because I learned about Vienna and I learned about the Centennial. Like
Sure,
at
yeah,
these different
right.
characters,
Right.
they all had a different flavor point. Right.
Were you a prolific home brewer? Did you homebrew a lot?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I love brewing.
Yep.
I just loved. I don't know. I did.
I learned a lot. I did it probably every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Like so, I was doing like maybe 20 to 26 batches.
It depended
a
on
year.
it depended on the month. Some months I did 2. Other months
Yeah.
I only did 1.
Yeah. Yep.
There was a couple times when I couldn't make it through.
Yep.
But
I took part.
especially,
I took part in a in that homebrew emporium.
Mhm.
What do they call it? The yeast
Oh,
experiment.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it changed my life. It changed my perspective on brewing.
And how much yeast plays a factor?
Oh, it's just
It's unbelievable.
see you, George. It literally it literally showed me how like water profiles important, yes. Malt choice and selection important, yes. But man, we did 200. They did 200 gallons. Gave 5 gallons to 40 different home brewers. Everybody got a little different a packet of yeast, and we came back in 2 months with bottled beer. We all ended up with 40 different beers. It was insane. It was an eye-opener to me because I was through happenstance be like, I would go there and I'd be like, oh, the recipe called for a California 01 or like an 05 or 04 or even a 23 if I wanted to do a lager or something like that. And if they didn't have it, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Just give me, oh, they don't have 04? All right, give me 05 or give me 01. Oh, they don't have 01? Give me whatever. Right? I was a 13, 18 London Ale guy for the longest time. But they didn't have that in stock.
I have no idea what that means, but I want to try it.
Yeah,
I
but
do.
just give me just give me whatever you got. That's
There are different
close.
strains of yeast and different providers, like Y yeast.
But man, what a difference.
Unbelievable, right?
Unbelievable. We ended up with 40 different beers. We all tried every beer that night, and I was like, you would not believe that the hot side has so little to do with the end product. I shouldn't say that because there's a million different ways you can end up with a different finished product. But that yeast, the selection of yeast has more to do with the flavor of beer, in my opinion, than
It's
just about everything.
hugely impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
so many ways. It's like it's. I mean, what are you talking about? You're really talking about being an artist and being a chef, and every little thing affects the finished product.
It's really
and
a
that's
chemist.
why it's an artist more than chemist.
yeah,
it's
in my
both.
opinion.
It's both.
Yeah.
But as the old adage goes, that brewers make wort, yeast make beer, right?
Correct.
And so
That is the adage.
when we were starting to prototype for our first NEPA, like what I wanted the flagship NEPA to be. And so what I did is I brewed 3 10-gallon batches.
Yep.
I split them into 5s and did 6 yeasts.
See,
and I did 3 dry and
that's it,
3
right there.
And I did 3 dry and 3 liquid yeasts.
Yeah.
And then I invited a bunch of friends over and just did a bunch of
Yep.
taste tests and tallied
Yep.
what people thought.
See, that's
And it was
it right there.
identical.
What you did. This is what taught me more about brewing than anything is when I started a split batch, and I would treat the same batch and I would do everything exactly the same, but pick a different yeast in one and a different yeast in the other, and you'd end up with different beers and be like, nope, I like this yeast better than that one.
Makes sense.
And then I would split batch and be like, all right, we're gonna dry hop with this recipe and dry hop with that one, and be like, oh my God, what a difference. You end up with 2 different beers, but on the hot side, it's the same exact beer.
Sure.
Right? And then it's just like how you treat it at the end. But that's actually taught me more about brewing than anything. Because if you're
the
doing 5
scientific
gallons,
method, though, right? It's like
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really
eliminating.
saying I'm going to
Yeah.
change one variable,
correct.
and then I'm going to test it out and see what
Right.
happens, right?
Yep.
Whether it's malt or yeast or hops.
Yep.
I mean, water treatment is hugely important to taking beer from good to great,
Right.
but all those other factors are where the artist piece comes in.
Correct.
So,
Or
if
the
you're
chemist.
Bob Ross, as a chemist, you have to understand some of those pieces as a brewer, but also it's the difference between, I don't know, we were talking about Gordon Ramsay.
Or are
right?
you talking about like what I was talking about with Mark Hopper? It's like
Right.
literally what makes a Michelin star chef different than like everybody. If I told you, hey, here's the same ingredients, make a chicken parm. Hey, buddy, here's chicken parm ingredients. You
Yeah.
make it. You were going to end up with 2 different things,
Yeah,
especially
I
if
might
you are
caramelize
Michelin
the
star.
onions a little bit more. He might keep
It's
it a little
insane,
bit, yeah.
right? Yep, you end up with different beers, and that's why you can't put a patent or a trademark on a beer recipe.
For sure.
Because everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
And even if
Yep.
if I give you
Right.
my recipe,
Sure.
you're still going to have enough variation that when you brew it, it's not going to even taste like mine.
I was telling,
And vice
like,
versa.
I was telling my partners, like, because they're like, "Oh, can you make a beer that tastes like this?" And I'm not. I'll throw out Industrial Arts Wrench, right?
Mhm.
Great beer.
Good beer.
If I
I love-
have the
yeah.
recipe for it,
Shout out to
I
Wrench.
cannot create exactly the same
Sorry, Industrial Arts.
because of the variables that go into
Exactly.
it. The temperature of the mash, like there's a million different variables that go into it. You know.
The guys over at Industrial Arts sent us a bunch of care package at one point. in time,
Why
so-
don't I have some of this beer? Especially if it's
reals.
new. That is great beer.
Have
Yeah.
you done a podcast with them?
I have not. I would love to get down there.
Yeah,
We've
that should
talked
be-
about them.
Great beer, great
They-
brewery.
Listen, I followed those guys for a long time too, and totally,
Taken off.
Pocket Wrench is one of my
Yeah, yeah.
favorite
Love it.
beers.
Yeah.
Love
It's a great lawnmower beer.
Yep, it's like Photon for me.
Yep.
I love like the lower percentage,
Agreed.
the lower ABV, but still like drinks like
Yeah.
a New England IPA, like
Which is
Photon
really
and
hard to
Pocket
do.
Wrench. It is.
It's
Sounds
like
great.
you don't want it to thin out, which is what happens
Correct.
when you brew with less malt
Yep.
to produce that lower ABV.
Yep.
If you change your mash temps, which could produce lower ABV because it's not
That's
as
what I try to do. Yeah.
fermentable,
Yep.
then you have more leftover sugars.
Yep.
So this is where all that chemistry
And
and
it's too
science comes in.
sweet.
Right.
Yep.
And so getting that good balance of like, here's enough sugar that it dries out enough
Yep.
and still has the mouthfeel of like a higher ABV
Yeah.
is very difficult to do. They've done a great job. Pocket Wrench is one of my favorite.
Yep. Photon for me has changed the like. Every time I go
That's
to
a great beer,
place,
too.
I'm always at 4.2.
There isn't
I
anything that they
think.
make they
It's
don't. It's
unbelievable.
not good.
What's that?
There's nothing that they make that isn't good.
No, it's very good beer.
They sent us socks.
Yep.
I gave the socks to Dave. I actually opened up. I did a podcast at Fidens, and I opened up their care package.
Their beer is really good beer.
Yeah,
Fidens.
Very good beer.
I agree.
Yep.
They have a really good handle on some New England IPAs, and they've been in craft beer and brewing, which I think like a year ago. No, not a year ago. A couple months ago, I saw their recipe for Jasper, and I do recipe in air quotes because I guarantee it's not the normal recipe. And But yeah, they've got a good handle on some good New England IPAs. But that's
Yep.
another, like we were talking about before. They're focused as like a NEPA house, right? And they
Correct.
do a couple of
Yep.
of high ABV dark beers, stouts,
Yep.
and stuff like that.
Phenomenal. I had recently at the Northway Brewing Festival. I had their stout that they were serving. It was like 10%. It so creamy, delicious. It was
So the
phenomenal.
one that I had from Fidens was a bit too much motor oil for me. It was a little too thick. Couldn't get any like carbonation into it.
That's probably the one I had.
But-
I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a little too dense
Yeah.
for me.
It was like a chocolate shake.
Yeah, that's
was awesome.
and that's just not my particular style.
Yep.
I'm not crapping on Fidens. Those guys are doing a
Oh,
great
no,
job.
yeah, for sure.
They're doing it right.
But their NEPAs, they've done a couple of really good ones. Now Treehouse is one of my favorite breweries
Yep.
in the Northeast. They're phenomenal, and those
I gotta
guys
get
are
out to Boston.
blowing
Not Boston,
up.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I went to Fiden's open house.
Did you?
Like 4 years ago,
Yeah.
5 years ago. They had a plywood sheet on their bar top, and I was like, ugh. I had their beer, and it changed my life. I was like, holy shit, this is Treehouse up here in the capital region.
They were
It's insane.
They were just down the street from my old house.
It was
so I live in Colony.
$4 for a 10-ounce pour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm coming here all the time. And I did. I came here. I went there all the time. I was a home brewer, and I was like pumping them for like how they're doing this, how they're doing this. It was amazing. It was
They're good people too.
phenomenal. Very good people.
Yeah, Mike and
Yep.
I can't remember all their
Yeah.
names, but like our episode, it's funny.
I
'cause
don't need to give them a shout out. But those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
No,
Those guys
everybody-
are awesome, and their beer is phenomenal.
There's one thing that's great about our industry, your industry, is that everybody's so awesome to each other. Like,
Yeah, well, it's not so much, especially for me here. I'm in Boston Spa.
Yeah.
We have a tap room. This is kind of a pizza house, beer house, tap
Yeah.
room. If they were open across the street from me,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna love that, but because their beer is phenomenal, right? But like this is
So,
a
like-
different environment.
Well, they do a lot more to go as well. So like,
Yeah,
as I was
they are
saying, I lived
canning
up
a
the
lot.
street from them
Yep.
in Colony. So when they first opened, every time I went there, they were already sold out. Now this was during
Correct.
the
Oh, yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah, well, that's when
And-
they did a lot of drive-through business.
Yeah. And every time they'd be like, "We're open on Saturday," and I'd go there at like 11, and the place was shut down. I'm
There's
like,
a line out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there was
just
no one
closed.
there. They were
Right.
sold
They're
out
done.
already, and I'm like,
10 o'clock. They
What?
started selling at 6 o'clock.
yeah, and I didn't realize that. And so by the time that I actually got a couple of the cans, I was like, I'm going to take everything that you got so I
Yeah.
can see what this is about. They had a couple of really good beers. So, as a brewer, you kind of look and go, all right, what are they doing right? And the same kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's some flavors here that I recognize.
Sure. The 13, 18,
yeah.
for example. Yep.
Yep.
So
So-
it's funny, but they put a heavy, from what I understand, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I know they put a heavy emphasis on water profile.
It's super important, especially for NEPAs. Like,
Correct.
it's really important. You get into
Yep.
that like calcium chloride ratio,
Yes.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it has a heavy impact because you're brewing an IPA as if it were a stout or like a darker, like a porter
Yeah.
or a stout. So it has to do with when you go in one direction, right? You're emphasizing hop like sharpness, like that hop character that where when you have a regular IPA, and you're like, wow, that is a really crisp bitterness.
Yep.
With a NEPA, you're going in the opposite direction. You're trying to brew it so that the bitterness is more muted and
Yep.
more just mellow.
Yep.
And so and with all of the proteins from the different oats and things like that, you're brewing it as if it were, like I said, a dark beer.
Yeah.
And so that water profile is extremely important. And
Yeah.
that's what I learned as a home brewer. I couldn't get, as a home brewer,
Yep.
that real good haze
Yep.
until I understood what was
Yep.
going on with the water profile.
You know, it's funny. We put more as a home brewer, I put more emphasis on calcium chloride and gypsum than I do here, like because we're so scaled up. It's hard to like. Okay, now I need to add a pound of gypsum and 2 pounds of calcium chloride and Epsom salt. Like, it's harder now than when it was a home brewing
Yeah.
setup. But anyway, let me ask you something.
Sure.
So where do you guys see? You guys are like more attuned to, especially you. You're more attuned to the local market. Where are we in the capital region as far as saturation point? Is there room for additional brews?
Oh, for
breweries?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure, and that's what that's the point that I was kind of getting at is that is what's great about the beer industry or the craft beer industry is that everybody supports everybody, and people are fans. Like you just like you were. I don't know if we talked about it actually on mic. We were saying that the guys. I think we did. The active ingredient came over.
Great guys.
Yeah,
man.
came over, tried your there's a certain brotherhood. Like, you had Andy that was sitting here, and it's almost like in the fireman's community. There's a certain brotherhood. I don't know you, but you're my brother. I feel the same way with brewers. It's like you guys.
You don't get that in a bar.
No,
that's for sure.
Yeah, and there's the relationship that you guys have and the way that you guys cheer each other on is phenomenal. I haven't really heard any other brewer really bash another brewer and say nothing but positive things, because they're always like you said, it's an art. It's like an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're producing good art, there's no reason there's no reason there's no room for you.
Yeah.
If you're producing a product that people like, there's a need for you. And trust me, both you guys sitting at this table both produce a product that people like.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that. I think what we find, though, too, the camaraderie that we see is that small craft breweries like this and brewers like us, like, we're more against macro beer like Budweiser, Miller, like those, because they still are by and far the largest producers of beer in the world, and we don't. I mean, it's still like craft has continued to grow.
You've taken a big chunk out of it.
But
it's
over the last
less than you think.
It's over the last decade,
yeah.
and 15 years. I mean, the 80s you started to slowly see it ramp. It started to take off a bit more in the 90s, 20s, 2000s.
It's starting to snowball now.
But
it's starting to slow down, right?
But it is starting
snowball,
to. I think it's starting to plateau a little bit. And the only reason that I say it that way is because I feel like it's hard to make it to all the places around you to try all the beers, but the hardcore like beer lovers do.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen with the people who aren't that hardcore? They're going to be like, okay, what do you got that's like a Bud Light? They're going to come in and ask for that.
Sure.
I just want a night out in the town. I want something that's low ABV.
Yep.
It's not hoppy because I don't like hops. I want something that's easy drinking, tastes like water.
70% of the brewers actually do produce a beer. I mean, if you look at Great Flats, they have Dad Jeans, which is a beer for guys that come in that are used to Budweiser.
Yep.
You go over to Everyday Dick at what is that place?
Everyday Dick.
Man, I'm so sorry, guys. Over at Walt Whitman, Whitman Brewing.
Whitman, yep.
I'm so sorry, I forgot your name for a second. They have a beer called Everyday Dick for guys that come in that want to try a beer that aren't really big into craft beer. They just want a beer that tastes like Budweiser,
Sure.
So I mean, a lot of
that literally
everybody
checks and balance.
For better or for worse,
everyone's brewing one.
Yeah, that's our third best-selling beer.
There's two beers you can do a pilsner, or like a cream ale, and people are going to be happy.
I tell you what, our cream ale went like crazy.
Yeah.
And that's good. And for example, like, so you kind of, I've only been in this commercially for about 6 months or so.
Yeah.
But you kind of get burnt out of brewing the same 10 beers over and over and over again. We just started a barrel aging program, and I tell you what, I'm born again. I love it. I love the idea of it. So we just took a bunch of kegs of our cream ale and put it in bourbon barrels.
Whose barrels?
Yankee.
Oh,
I'll
there
tell
you go.
what,
Yeah.
Those guys are unbelievable.
They're good people over there.
So we between Yankee and ADK, I'm not gonna say exclusively Yankee because ADK has been unbelievable too.
Yeah.
They're awesome, but these guys have been awesome. We've got a couple of other barrels.
Yeah.
And we're looking to expand and do, a whole program because that's where I'm loving it. Like Hill Farmstead, Suarez family brewers, I drink their pilsners, and I want to be able to replicate that.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable beer, right? It's
sure.
amazing. So, but what we have now in our bourbon barrels is some cream ale. We just did a sour haze.
Yeah.
We did our in a haze. We put it in on a fresh bourbon barrel.
Yeah.
We added some of the souring yeast.
Yeah.
We added more pineapple and then added some Philly yeast to it, Philly haze or whatever.
Is that what you use for your sours? Is Philly?
No, but we had already. It's already fermented beer. We added some fruit juice to it, and then added the Philly haze just to ferment the juice itself, and that's what we were getting the sour from. And so that'll be on tap next month. And then the cream ale we did in a actual bourbon barrels. That'll be ready May 1st. I can't wait for that.
I can
we're
see why.
looking out for that.
So you can't see it because our camera's gone down.
Yeah.
We're off camera, but we just switched over to the checks and balance. And,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Little
it
Czech
does.
Pilsner.
It's got a great flavor still. So
Yeah.
a craft beer lover will enjoy it, but there's a certain familiarity
Sure.
for those Budweisers,
Yeah.
those Coors Lights.
That
It's
is
light. It's not as hoppy as I would say a Czech Pils would be.
correct. It saws hops.
Yeah.
Like you would
It's
expect.
some noble, but it's not like
Yep.
Czech Pils I would expect to be a little bit hoppier, but this
Sure.
is highly approachable, especially for those people who are not
Yep.
looking for something hoppy.
This isn't
and it's crisp,
for-
it's clean. It's
Yes,
nice.
Thank you. This is not for people that are craft beer enthusiasts. This is for people that come in here every day.
Yep.
And it's every single day. Oh, what do you have that's really light? And it's for the people whose friends come in here that are like,
I don't like craft beer,
I
but
don't like New
I'll
England
I'll
IPAs.
drink a beer. Yeah.
Sure, and they love this. Is our third most popular beer right now for the last probably month.
It's very clean, and
Yep.
I mean, it is crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
So now,
Yep.
what do you do for clarifying? Are you guys doing like any kind of?
So we're not doing World Flock. We're doing Irish Moss. We're doing gelatin findings in that one there. I couldn't be happier.
You're not
with
doing
that
both?
difference. Nope.
Okay, so
Nope.
just gelatin
Just gelatin in the secondary, and I could not.
during cold crash, like after cold crash.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. And I couldn't be more happy with that because originally our first version we did not do gelatin finding, and it was a hazy,
Slightly
and,
hazy. You got
and
cold haze kind of going on.
We did, and I was kind of disappointed because I know what a Pilsner is supposed to look like, and that did not do it. This here, just unbelievable. I'm every day and it's funny because the bartenders will tell you every day for the last month I've been walking in and pouring that, and it's
And you gotta
getting
double check
better
it, yeah.
and better and better. And every time we change a keg,
Because it's
I'm
been
looking
sitting
at it.
longer. So all that
Sure.
stuff, it takes that participant and pulls it right out.
Yep.
So
That's for the
yeah,
that's
I
the
think
lady.
for what I was doing for I was doing this for all of our clearer beers, like
Yep.
the
World
West
Flock.
Coast IPA, well, not World Flock, but
Okay.
Irish Moss.
Yep.
And so I'd
Yep.
add Irish Moss at the end of the boil,
Yep.
and I did that for
I don't
most.
love that product.
I did it for most beers.
Yeah.
Because, all you're doing is looking to pull some of the, especially at the end of the boil,
Proteins out.
a
Yep.
bunch of that just heavier proteins, get them to drop, and you whirlpool that out.
Yep.
And, but then, obviously not in the NEPA or those other ones.
Sure.
I wouldn't add it for those.
No.
You want that haze, but
Yep.
for anything that was clearer, I would do Irish Moss at the end of the boil, and then I would also do the biofine kind of
Yep.
gelatin and
So I've
stuff
gotten
at the
away
end.
from Biofine and just started using gelatin.
Yeah, all those products like
Yeah.
silica.
It's
It's
about half the price and twice the effect, in my opinion.
I had great results with the silica. I did.
Did you? I've
Yeah.
never used that, but I've used the Biofine, and now I'm using just the gelatin findings, and man, I'm super impressed with it. Yeah, I mean, you can't get clearer than that. You can read a newspaper through that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Your face is backwards in it, but
Yeah. Speaking of which, have you ever been away from the Northeast and ordered a New England IPA?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Mhm.
We were in Key West last year, and we went to a brewery, and they're like, they had a New England IPA, and I'm like, oh, sweet. It looked just like that.
Yeah.
Super clear. I was like,
that's not a New England.
I've
not-
had both.
Yeah.
I've had both. I've had ones that come out clear, and there was
Yeah.
a battle in brewing for a little while. It's like, what really is a New England IPA? Is it hazy or is it
Unfiltered.
not hazy? I'm like,
Yeah.
it's absolutely hazy, bro.
It's hazy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't
and-
define it. I just know what it is.
It's unfiltered.
It's like
You
profanity.
can't-
It's like profanity on a podcast. You know it when you hear it.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what's funny is you bring that up. It's our last podcast. D. Scott, I counted him like 30 seconds how many times he dropped the F-bomb in one story he was telling. And I was like, oh man, that's a little uncomfortable for me. But I don't think anybody else noticed. I love D. D.
Yeah.
The reason why I have D
That's
on
funny.
it, him and I have such a great rapport. That's we go way back. He's become a very good friend of mine. But yeah, there was like 30 seconds. I said, wow, he just dropped the F-bomb a lot. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's Dave and I have. It's okay to swear. We just don't want it to make it our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your
It
thing.
shouldn't be a filler.
It shouldn't be your thing.
It's okay to, it's something that you use
When it's-
periodically when it's appropriate.
when it's appropriate.
Because
Yeah.
it makes
to
sense.
emphasize a
Yeah,
point.
Exactly.
Not because you're nervous on the air.
Fucking A. Absolutely.
Right.
Fucking swear words. It's just a bunch of bullshit. No, but this is delicious. And talking, I want to say that I was really impressed. I think I want to say in St. Arnold's in Texas, Houston. that had a New England IPA that was hazy and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. It might not have been.
I'm
that.
not saying that only people in the Northeast know how to make it,
but there's very few people outside of the Northeast that know how to make it.
Why the fuck cannot people make it out in the West Coast?
For sure,
I don't get it.
There's
they
a
have the
couple.
same ingredients.
They've spent years making clear beer.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so
and it's hard to resist the urge to run through filters or add biofine or clarifying or add Whirlflock. It like they don't think of flaked oats as an ingredient.
But I think they've caught on because I do see more coming from Southwest. You know, if you look at like I don't know, Seattle, and there's some breweries out there that they've made some decent New England IPAs. They're hazy. The mouthfeel isn't as pillowy, I'd say.
I'm not going to give you a geography lesson.
But I would say.
But that's the way north.
No, I'm
just so you're aware.
saying Southwest in terms of like there's some places in Texas, there's some places that are kind of South California, and all the way up to Seattle.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm fully aware. I do know what the map looks like, but I'm saying that's the belt that you would normally see. Super crisp IPAs, right?
Yeah. Right.
All along the West Coast, and I have had a couple from disparate breweries around there.
Sure.
And I don't include Sierra Nevada's like hazy little thing, or even though that's a good beer too.
It's a fine beer.
It's one that's like
It's
another
like their
lower
take
ABV. It's lower ABV.
Yep.
And it's a good go-to when you're like I'm at the grocery store and do I want a
18
Sam
rack,
Adams or do I
18
want
rack for $14?
Exactly.
Yep.
That's kind of the.
Yep.
So actually, here's a question that you need to add.
Okay.
This will be number 4. And I know we're running long, but this
It
would
doesn't
be
matter. At this point, I was trying to keep it within the same time, and I was like, once that went out, I didn't.
Edit it. Just edit
So
this.
what the number 4 question is, as a brewer, as a beer lover, when you go slumming, what's your go-to beer?
Photon. And that's not even slumming.
That's not slumming. I'm talking about like for me,
slumming?
like
Miller Lite.
there you go.
I was
There
going to
you
say,
go.
I'm not
Day.
below drinking a Coors Light.
No,
this
I
is
don't
this
drink that.
Banquet?
So this is the thing. Every brewer has a beer that when you ask that, it's either like Pabst. For me, it's Molson. Or no, not Molson. I'm sorry,
can't
Labatt
do-
Blue.
Yep.
Labatt Blue or Molson Canadian.
Molson
too.
Canadian. That's what I almost said, but Labatt Blue. I went to school in Potsdam, and so when most of the time we were drinking
I
Beast
have a
Ice.
good answer for this.
Most of the time we were drinking Beast Ice, right?
Oh.
And we were playing Beirut.
Sure.
And for those who don't know, it's not beer pong, it's Beirut. You play it with quarters. It's a legit all-out game. Anyway,
We called it TAP, Total Experience of Pain.
and so we would play with normally.
No, Total
Beast.
Affection of Pain. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to know more about this. But anyway, we'd play with Beast Ice. But when we were like, hey, let's get some decent beer, we'd get Labatt Blue. We're all poor college kids.
Yeah.
But Labatt Blue became like we're getting real beer, and it still has that place in my heart. So it's not the craft like good stuff that you go to, but you have a place. So yours is Miller.
So I tell you what, every time we get on a boat, we have a pontoon boat, and
All
it's
right.
like when it's time to load up on a boat, and then you're like, okay, we're going to be gone for 5 hours, and you're going to be drinking at least a 12-pack, Corona Light,
Okay, that's a good one.
and I make my wife cut up a shit ton of limes
yep.
because I'm doing that. Or if we don't want to take glass with us, it's Miller Lite
Yeah.
There you
all
go.
day, because that just brings me back to like literally what songs do we sing when we're like hanging out, right?
Yeah.
The songs of nostalgia that
Yeah,
bring you
for
back
sure,
to
for
the
sure.
time when you're young, when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
19, 20 years old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what why the 80s music is so popular right now?
Absolutely, and
It's
that's why I say
nostalgia.
this is why I say this is question number 4.
Yeah.
because every
Nostalgia.
brewer has one. Everybody who's been in this business or whatever.
Well, there's my path, and we talked a lot about it during our podcast together. I have just like you guys were talking about hazy beers. I was going to ask, what was your first hazy beer?
Question 5, by the way, would be, since you became a brewer, what can you not take anymore? And that would be
That's a good
Michelob Ultra.
Oh no, that's not even a beer.
That's water.
Regular
Yeah.
Michelob I
That
can
is
drink.
so watered down that I just no.
That one I
No.
never could.
No.
I was never a
No.
beer drinker.
One more
when I was
calorie, dude. It literally is true. One more calorie, and you get Miller Lite.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's true. right?
It's horrible.
So
And it has no flavor.
no, it is not.
It is.
But I used to
unbelievable.
drink it, and now that I brew beer, and I've been drinking beer every freaking day for.
Can't drink it no more.
No.
But
No.
what was your first hazy beer?
That's a good question. I will tell you my favorite hazy beer is
Or
Foam
first
Brewery.
unfiltered beer?
Which one?
Foam Brewery.
Okay.
Okay.
Foam Brewery inspired me to brew beer.
Oh, wow.
Foam Brewery inspired me to want to start my own brewery. And if I ever get to have the quality of beer that Foam Brewery produces, I'll be
Happy?
good. I'll be good.
You'll be chasing that forever, though. You'll never think you're that good when you're already hit that point
Correct.
beyond it, which is
Correct.
a good quality.
And that's true. I
I can tell that with both of you guys.
I will tell you
We keep
that
giving you compliments,
Yeah.
and you keep brushing it off. Like
No.
you're not happy enough.
No.
When you're
And I
No,
will
there's
tell
always
you-
something to learn, man.
No,
There's
and
always something to learn.
and you will know that about me. I'm just, and it's not humble out of like, I want to be known as a humble person. That's reality. That's
Correct.
the way I am. I wear
Correct.
that. Like,
and that's fist bump right there,
Yep.
man. That's fist bump.
Yep.
Nick, you got to answer it. What is your slumming beer?
any beer. I will drink
Checks
a
and balance.
Keystone. No,
Checks and
get
balance.
outta here.
That's not slumming. That's
Yeah.
good. No, but like if
I'll
you
drink Keystone. I'll drink the Beast. I'll
Nope.
drink Natty. I'll
PBR,
Drink,
Natty.
I'll drink PBR.
ice cold PBR I can deal with.
see, that's what I think is interesting.
Ice cold though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
all right, so the beer that I would buy that would be considered slumming, that I would actually purchase if I couldn't find anything else.
I call it slumming, but I think your analogy was great. Like we're going out on the lake.
Yep. Got to
We're
drink
gonna
an
be
18
out.
pack.
We're gonna be out for 6-7 hours. What
You're
are you
not
buying?
drinking
What are you
craft
bringing?
beer.
No,
Yep.
because you
can't.
you're not drinking a 8% beer all afternoon. You're
I'll
gonna
buy Rec League. I mean,
some Utica Club.
well, no, Harpoon makes a beer called Rec League.
You're going to Stewart's. You're pulling in.
Yeah,
What are you pulling out with a 12 pack when you got to put it on ice?
it could be anything. If I have 99% of the time, it's probably gonna be like Coors Light.
There you go.
Okay.
Coors Light.
I said
can get
that
behind
at first, but I'm
Yeah.
Yep.
But like again, if somebody rolls up with a Keystone, like a 18 pack of
Nope.
Keystone, I'm gonna
Nope.
drop. Yeah,
I'm
bro,
not-
throw me
Nope.
one.
I wouldn't go there. I would
Nope.
also say like if they rolled up with Rolling Rock.
I'll drink Rolling Rock.
No.
I can do Rolling Rock.
I
can do
can't.
Rolling
I
Rock.
can't.
Has to be
The
ice
green.
cold, though.
The green bottle.
It's all gotta be ice cold.
It just makes it taste skunky, just like Heineken.
You ever
I like
go
Heineken.
to? You ever go to?
Just put it in a dark bottle and
what
save
happened
the
to Molson
flavor.
Bradors?
Molson, but
Well, Bradors up from
Canada?
From Canada. What happened to Bradors?
I don't
I
know.
remember Triple X when it was really Triple X.
Dude,
That was good beer.
all right, Molson Triple X.
Yes. What
So,
happened to that? Or
dude,
Molson Ice.
It
Remember
was
that?
like $7.
I want to say Molson Ice was a regular go-to. So in college, I went to Crane School of Music in Potsdam. I was
Plattsburgh.
nice,
Best 3 semesters of my life.
right on, 5 for me.
Good for you.
So I went, and I was in an a cappella group, and
Hindsight.
in
I gotta learn more about it. I like this.
yeah, we're gonna talk about this one in a second. I took a quick sip. We're gonna get back to it. But so we went, my a cappella group, when I was in college, we went up to.
Stop. We need to talk about that.
Okay, we'll get to it in a second. then.
Acapella.
And you still
Yeah.
gotta tell me what your hazy beer. Real quick,
All
tell
right.
me what your first hazy beer was.
My first hazy beer.
Yeah.
It was actually Treehouse.
Okay.
Wow.
And
You must not have liked it. The first time I tried Treehouse beer, I was like,
no,
what the-
I tasted
punch me in the
Julius, and it
face.
changed my world. I was
Oh,
like,
wait.
what is this?
Little sip of sunshine for me.
Oh,
Changed
wow.
my life.
Another one, another good one.
Changed
All right, let me
my
finish
life.
the story, and then we're gonna get
I'll
back
tell
to
you
that.
mine real
Go
quick.
for
It's Circus Boy.
Really?
Who's that?
That's they made numbered Magic
No,
Hat.
It's Magic Hat, yeah.
Okay.
But I that's why I think it's weird.
Sip of sunshine.
Circus
Circus
Boy was my
Boy.
first time
Wow.
beer.
Sip of sunshine.
I've got stories about Magic Hat too. So anyway, we went. My a cappella group went to Montreal to sing in a Montreal Expos
It's hard for me
game.
to absorb all that, by
All
the
right,
way.
we went to
Acapella.
sing the American and the Canadian national anthems at a Montreal Expos game before the Expos obviously were.
Why were you letting me sing earlier? Why didn't you sing?
I thought we could be friends, actually.
So-
I got to hear this.
So we went and sang the national anthems and
Yeah.
started off the game on the pitcher's mound and everything. Then, and it was actually hilarious because like the baseball players, we were wearing tuxedos, and they were like, "Where are you going to the prom?" Like they were busting our
Wild.
balls. It was hilarious. So anyway, we got free
Take your
tickets to the
mom out on a
game. We got
Wild.
free tickets to the game. Drinking age in Canada at the time was 19.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been there 18.
And
Loved it.
and
Me too.
I was
Loved it.
19, so I was like, dude, we're going and getting beers
Hell yeah.
at concession, and they had Molson Triple X, and I was like, Yeah, bring it on.
This is the 7%, not the New York 6%.
Correct.
No,
Correct.
the real deal.
Because
Yeah,
it was
real
illegal
deal.
in New York.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I was like, yeah, bring it on. And I had 2 of them, and I was like,
Rotten.
whoa,
Rotten.
this is
beer.
the beer is strong up here.
And then you even try to hide it.
No.
Like,
No.
It was fantastic.
And it was
so,
beer. That,
yeah,
like Molson beer up in Canada and
Was
Montreal
beer.
was delicious.
yeah. It's totally different in the
It
States.
is. It really is.
Because
Agree.
in the United States, we're a bunch of wusses, and Prohibition wrecked everyone's palates. So anyway,
We're slowly working our way back.
All right. So that's my Molson Triple X.
Well, you just blew my mind with the whole acapella thing, but I won't go there.
Are you an acapella hater? Is that what it is?
I love acapella.
No, I love that. What's that one movie with the girls singing there? Love
Pitch
it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Acapella is not like that. Just saying.
I grew up
Oh,
with where
it's not girls pillow fighting
No,
and singing?
no.
Oh, all right. disregard.
Our girls acapella group. There was maybe I shouldn't even say it. There was maybe 2. The rest were
Twos. So anyway,
I just when I grew up with Where in the World is Carmen San Diego with Rockapella.
do it Rockapella.
so this is our hindsight.
Yes, yeah. Tell us.
Yeah.
This is number 1. It's our version of a West Coast IPA for people who don't love West Coast IPAs. This is a very mellower version of a West Coast IPA.
I like it.
Clear beer, Centennial hops, again, reintroduced with a bunch of New York hops. And it's, like I said before, it's kind of a West Coast version for people who don't really love like that 90-minute boil, 60-minute boil, 30-minute boil. And it's kind
What's
of...
the IBU on this?
I couldn't tell you.
You can't taste it?
No, it's low.
It's
way
IBUs
low.
are subjective, but I would put that in the 30s.
It's way low compared to
Yeah.
what you would traditionally see in a Sierra Nevada, which is the benchmark, right,
Yeah.
for a West Coast IPA.
And even in their pale ale, I would say
Sure,
is
way higher
a West
than that.
Coast.
Yeah.
Their Sierra Nevada's pale ale is actually a West Coast.
yes. This is
It's an IPA.
This is not like this is a West Coast IPA for people who live in the Northeast that don't love a West
They
Coast.
can't handle a true West Coast.
Right? Because
Yeah.
true West Coast IPA is like, we do not have the palate for it here, okay? Because we haven't been introduced to it over the last 10 years. And people that think they like West Coast IPAs, if they have it, they're not reordering it.
Elder,
Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, because it's
so
they're
bitter.
drying.
It's so
and,
bitter. They
and by the
dry
time you
out.
get to the end of that pint,
You're like,
I need.
right?
That's where you need food.
You need water.
You need salt. You need something else to.
you need a glass of water, typically. And I'm the same way. I drink a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It's the benchmark, right? If I could ever be 1/50th of a successful as New Sierra Nevada, I'd be like, good to go.
That's
all
what-
right?
yeah.
But the reality is here, like you have to be true to where you are. Okay, so this is a West Coast version of an IPA, and I don't know, people love this beer. I love this.
Yeah,
beer.
it's good. It
love it.
isn't. It is not as hoppy as a normal like
Correct.
West Coast IPA.
Correct.
I would almost say like this could be in pale ale territory.
Except that it's so clear.
Well,
Yeah.
even a pale ale is clear, but it's
Sure.
it's a little lighter in color than I might put a pale ale.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I can give you there, but I will say it's crisp and it's clean.
Yep, we're using
it's good.
West Coast Ale yeast for that one there, and from I think it's for the month.
Yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
all dry yeasts.
We are doing all dry yeast. We except for our seltzers, we started to use Propagate, but it's just so expensive for shipping that it
Yep.
just makes it very impractical.
And unless you're doing like a yeast brink where you're harvesting yeast and
No, we're
repitching
not.
and all that stuff, I mean,
We're
you have to be brewing on the regular
Correct.
every day almost because you don't want that sitting for too long
Yep.
and then
Yep.
so
Yep.
it's totally
Yep.
yeah I feel you.
Yeah. So, a matter of fact, the kind of the kitschy little name behind that, the Hindsight. I don't know if you guys are from Ballston Spa.
I'm from Niskayuna.
I'm from
Colony.
Schenectady.
Hindsight, it's crystal clear, right? It's 2020.
Yep.
Looking behind you. Our zip code here in Ballston Spa, 12020. What?
Nice.
Oh, there you go.
Mind blown. Yeah. So.
Boom.
Yep.
Hindsight, and it's also the last beer that we had.
I saw that
Yeah.
it's spelled H1.
12020. 2020.
Hindsight 2020. Yeah. So it's H1ND site 2020.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
My zip code's 12074.
You're not getting anything cool out of that.
No,
I'm
mine,
sorry.
mine's 12309. So it's like
I miss my 12309 zip codes though.
The 2020 zip code is kind of cool.
that is cool.
You're looking back, it's all crystal clear.
At this point, because you just had to wait all those years for it to become relevant and cool.
Crystal clear.
I will say that, like, when I was a kid, I grew up in Nassau, and the zip code was 12123. I always thought that was cool. And out of all the zip codes I've lived in, that's the one that still sticks with me.
Well,
It's like-
2020 is your vision.
yeah,
Crystal
yeah.
clear.
That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
you had to wait until 2020 in order to make it.
Don't forget, Schenectady GE main plant is 12345.
Yeah, that's
blew
truth.
my mind.
That's truth.
That just blew my mind.
They called that when they started making zip codes. They're like, yeah, we're gonna be.
12345.
That's amazing. That's the same.
Common citizen.
Yeah.
The same password I have in my luggage.
Only an idiot. Actually, he doesn't say idiot. One of the best lines of that movie is, tell them to comb the desert. Sir, you find anything? Guys, you find anything? Sir, we haven't found anything. You find anything? Sir, we haven't found anything. What about you guys?
We ain't found shit.
We ain't found shit.
And they got a pick.
Yeah.
Like all the other guys have combs.
I'm surrounded
ain't
by
found
assholes.
shit.
But yeah, no, I think it's about time. No, it's not about time. I need to know where the Speckled Pig came from. Where's the name come from?
Speckled Pig, I think we covered it. It's
Did we
an
really?
homage to the farmers
I'm an
that
idiot.
provided us with our grains and our hops. Like literally, like I said,
What are
like,
those names on the wall?
That's a really
The
cool
founders?
program. So our opening weekend that we decided to kick off, we introduced a program for our founders. We had about 280 people that were brave enough, stupid enough,
Smart enough?
smart enough to contribute and say, believe in us, and say, yeah, I think this is going to be freaking awesome business here in the heart of Ballston Spa. I will say before, I got to give props to the people here in Ballston Spa.
For
It
sure,
has
great
been
town.
unbelievable. These guys are awesome. Like every night they come in here, and we provided kind of it's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to provide, because our tap room was our vision, right? Like we never thought we'd get to the point where we'd be distributing and seeing our stuff outside of downtown Ballston Spa.
So quickly, too, by the way.
Right, so we just thought that we would just have a good place for people to gather here, come, bring their kids. We have a little pig pen up there.
I've seen that, the toys and
It's
the
so,
color books.
dude, I tell you what, it's awesome when
I
you
didn't
have
know it was
on a
called the Big Ben,
Saturday.
that's funny.
Yeah, on a Saturday you
That
have
is the
like
best name. That's
kids
awesome.
running around here, and all we really want to do is provide a place for people, the residents of Ballston Spa, to gather here, drink beer, talk shit, and just hang out and make like we all did, right? Like
Yeah.
the best plans come after you've been drinking, right?
That's why this podcast is here. Dave and I
Right.
would have drinks and we'd have a conversation. That's what I want this podcast to
Right.
be.
It's all a bunch of drunk talk. How many people act upon drunk talk? Dude, I've talked about going skydiving. I've talked about going deep sea fishing. I've talked about spear fishing. Made plans for every one of these things over beers. None of it's ever happened.
Thank God.
No, you're wrong. I still want to go spear
just kidding.
fishing.
Yeah,
I
but
still want to
there
go
was
That's the
spear
only thing on the list
fishing.
I didn't do.
There was a day when I wanted to go skydiving like really bad.
Yeah.
Now I'm 45
Right.
and I'm like, no.
You should do it.
No,
You've done it.
I don't think. And it's not
Yeah.
because I'm afraid to jump out of the plane.
Yeah.
It's I'm afraid of what it's going to feel like on my knees when I land.
Right.
land on
It's
your-
your knees, right?
Yeah.
Your ankles, your knees.
Yeah, that's all I'm thinking about. I
Heads
don't
up, guys.
like the whole way down, jumping
Yeah.
out, any of that stuff. I'm fine. I'm
The
like,
first time you
I'm
jump,
gonna-
you're not landing on your knees, and it's worse than what you think it's going to be.
that's what I'm saying. I'm at the
Literally,
age.
my
that-
words were, is I feel like I just got raped by Mother Earth.
No, but that's what it, like literally like so many of like my ideas have come like when you've been drinking with friends.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like that's what I
said I was
wanted
gonna
to
start a
execute
podcast.
on. Yeah.
And here you are,
exactly.
man. Here you are.
RJ, you ready to mic up?
Come on over. We got a mic.
RJ, come here. 2 minutes. RJ, 2 minutes. So literally, that's what it really came down to. It's like, that's what I wanted to provide. A place for like a residents of Ballston Spa to come and just make like a bunch of drunk talk and just have fun and just kind of provide a place that like everybody here can bring their families and just kind of just enjoy themselves. I didn't think it was going to grow
Yeah.
beyond this tap room. And here we are.
Here's a little secret. I can
That's
tell
awesome.
you, everyone that I talk to doing the podcast and everything, a lot of times it's behind the scenes, and I talk to people. It's the breweries that say that they did this because they wanted to capture that thing that they love most.
The pub environment.
Talking, hanging out.
I love pubs, dude. I love pubs.
Those breweries do so well. It's the ones that say, I started for money.
Yeah.
Never gonna work.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's that was the same for me. What I wanted was, because I love the historical nature of, like,
Look at this
every
building. It's
every
historic,
town
right? Yeah.
throughout Europe,
Yes.
especially in Germany.
Yes.
Every town had their own brewery.
Two in a block.
And
Two in a block.
Well, sometimes it was just one in that town, but that's where everybody in that town went.
Yes.
That was the local watering hole,
Yep.
if you will. That was the community center.
Yep.
You
And
brought
so
that up. You wanted.
Yep.
Yeah.
that's what I've always wanted, was to say, like, here's where community actually happens. It's not on the internet. It's not in these other places.
Sure.
It happens
It's
over a
here.
pint.
It's
Exactly.
here.
And you meet
Yeah.
people, and you're like, oh, you're from my town, and you live 2 streets up from me.
Right.
Hey. They met
Yeah.
in the tavern. They met in those places. And in
Sure.
the winters, they would go there and be like, let's go and get warm. We're going to sit by the hearth. We're
Sure.
going to have a pint.
Yep.
And in the summers, they were outside in the beer garden, and they're having a good time.
Yep.
All of that stuff revolved around these taverns. And I think all throughout human history,
Sure.
that was an incredibly important part. And I feel like as we look, not to get political, but as we look at our communities, and the internet has expanded the size of our community,
funny
and
you say that.
everybody is
Yep.
farther and farther away. We've lost the community center.
See, I disagree with you in that respect. My wife literally said, "Are we behind the 8 ball? Do we miss the curve? Did we miss?
Oh,
is
no,
it
not at
peaked?"
all. Not even
And I
close.
said, "Fuck that. We've been drinking beers in pubs for thousands of years.
Correct.
People want to drink beers, hang out,
We
face
we
one
agree.
another."
We agree here.
Yep.
You don't disagree. What
No.
I'm saying is restoring that
Correct.
locality
Yep.
is actually, I think, critical. But I also think people desire it. They yearn for it.
They yearn for the human connection.
Correct.
Like, I love people.
Yeah.
I love talking to people. There are many people like me. There are so many people, though, unfortunately, that want to shy away from it and be online and be a recluse.
No, they
But
want to sit on
by
their
and
soapbox
large-
and like, listen to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
by and large, there is a yearn for the human connection that occurs in a tap room, in a pub. I hope that the tap room that is a microbrewery, nano brewery, actually more than a microbrewery, does not push away the pubs, because there's a place for a pub too. And I hope that
These are pubs, though. These are
I-
traditional pubs.
You're right. I hope that pub
Public
owners
house.
do not see this as a threat to their livelihood.
No, if they're smart, they buy your beer.
Correct.
If, however, I were a pub, I would probably take a look around and be like, fuck. Like, because our margins are a little better, our beer's a little better, our connections are what people are yearning for. And long story short, I just, like, this is where I think human connections are made, at a
I
pub
agree.
level. So how many spouses have met at a pub?
Mine and Jess's first date was at the Rock.
There you go.
Me and my wife met at
And
McGeary's.
there you go.
I used to do homebrew competitions at the Rock.
Yeah, we talked
Extreme,
about it.
extreme
Phenomenal,
homebrew.
by the way.
Yeah.
The Ruck is a phenomenal
We also
pub.
went to the Ale House first. And
Love
then we
the
went
Ale
to the
House. Best
Nice.
chicken wings in Troy.
Rock
for
might
sure.
disagree.
Speaking of which, that's the next thing you got to add.
I like them both.
That's the next thing you got to add is some wood-fired chicken wings.
Vinny, how many times have I said we need chicken wings in my life?
Wood-fired chicken wings.
How many times have I said we need chicken wings in my life? We need chicken wings in my
A
life.
few hundred times. There he is.
And then we start making your
I'm
own
telling
blue
you,
cheese.
wood-fired
chicken
wood-fired
wings.
chicken wings, man. It'd be it.
Yeah.
It'd be it.
Brown's Brew Pub has phenomenal ones up in Hoosick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard with the flow.
Yeah.
This guy.
Hey, listen.
You're doing a good job with what you got.
Yeah, what you're doing here is awesome. Speaking of which, I got to get a pizza to go. I got to take one of those to my wife. I gotta get that. What was that one called?
My Boy Blue.
Yeah, I gotta get to go, please. If I don't bring that home, and I tell her about it, she's gonna be like, "What's my name? Skip?"
Well,
Yeah,
I
right.
gave you those two to bring home. But she's probably going to want more than.
Oh, yeah.
I would eat one
And
of those
my-
by myself.
And my son, and
Yeah. It's good stuff.
And I got to have leftovers for tomorrow. You know, you got to plan ahead. That's all I'm saying.
Real quick to go back to the pubs, if they're smart,
Yeah.
they're getting your beer, they're getting Wolf Hollow beer,
They
they're getting
Local beers.
They
yeah,
are.
they're getting less and less of the Coors Lights,
They
the
are.
Molson Canadian.
They'll still need to get one.
I still need
But
one.
what instead of having Bud Light and Coors Light on tap, they choose one,
Yeah.
and the rest
Yes.
of them are local
Yeah.
beers. That
Yep.
is where I see this eventually getting
Yeah.
to.
The evolution seems to be in motion.
Yeah.
It really does. It seems to be going that direction.
And you can see people's palates changing. Like as I look through as a brewer, you're asking yourself, okay, what do people want to drink? Like I know what I want to drink, and I'm going to brew some of the beer that I want to drink.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I bring
Right.
to the table.
Yeah.
But I also want to know, what do people want to drink? And I think you were asking this before. Like, what does the market look like? How much are we saturated? That's a question that all of us are asking. But at the
Sure.
same time, you're asking, what are people thirsty for?
Yeah.
Right. And all the craft beer lovers
Yeah.
are always on the search of like, what's new? How can I find something new? And then
What's new, what's local.
yeah,
Yep.
and
Yep.
what's local is like, it's become a badge of honor, especially in this artisanal age where everybody's
Yeah.
like, I want to buy local, I want the local cheese, I want the local
Sure.
beer, I want the local bread, I want,
Local
we're getting
charcuterie. I
we're-
love it.
Yeah,
I love it all. I
we're
love
getting
everything
back
artisanal.
to that history that we used to have, where
Yep.
you'd go up the street to the bakery, and then you'd go across the street to the deli, and be like, I want. You see the stuff hanging in the windows.
The
like
scale
meats.
is where can you do all that at a price point that
Yeah.
is like conducive to that, right?
Yep, it's
So-
hard.
And we're getting squeezed, like margin wise. Like I don't want to raise my prices and alienate a group.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing we could get into with like
It is.
just the state of the economy, and this kind of gets back to what's going on with Craftpoint. Like I'm like, is 23 going to be a
time
good
to be-
year?
yeah, to-
Because
Yeah.
you're seeing what happened in Europe, the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is the bread basket
biggest
of
malt
Europe,
producer. Yep.
right? They're a major producer of malt and wheat,
Yep.
and so on. So that changes prices.
Yeah, our
Then-
prices have gone up 10%.
Yeah, but you
Come
got
out.
to keep
Shipping.
producing beer.
Oh no, I'm not done. I'm just asking
No, I'm
when
saying
the
like
timing
in
is.
2023, you should still. I don't know. I don't care if you have to go out and get a website and just sell it to be like if you're delivering it to people's houses personally.
Well, we're gonna figure something out. I'm not.
You got to
stopping
keep
making
brewing.
beer.
You got to keep canning. I know you got the ability to keep brewing because you're still going to use Frog Alley's.
I can, but we're trying to figure out how that looks. Like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
does this look like? But just talking about the costs, right?
Right.
You've got the economy is just not in great shape, and so you've got rising costs on the products. You've got rising costs on shipping because.
Sure.
So as an example,
Yeah.
my cousin is a truck driver, owns his own business. He's one of those guys who owns a couple of trucks, does all over the road. He was just telling me yesterday that what's going on in California, because they basically Gavin Newsom just said, if you're an independent, they basically
Yeah,
just cut
so
off.
long.
There was like 30,000 or 40,000
Truckers.
truckers
Yeah.
who just went out of business basically
Sounds like
because
Canada.
they can't. They no longer are legally allowed to. They need all the big guys.
Yep.
That means that there's a major shortage of truckers,
Yep.
which also that's on top of the already existing
That's China's #1 hub, which is
Yeah.
the biggest producer of brewing equipment.
exactly. We get most of our brewing equipment from China.
Yeah.
So there's these major impact points that are all affecting cost, and which means, are you going to raise your prices to keep
Yeah.
open? What does that do to
Right.
Are people going to keep coming in if you're raising prices?
exactly?
Well,
What's the economy look like for
it's a
people
scale.
spending money?
Yeah. What's
So
that?
what
It's
is it?
all the way around.
$7 for a pint is
That's average
right
right
now. That's average or decent. Do I lower and go to $7 for a 13-ounce pour, or do I go to $8 for a 16-ounce pour, or do I just maintain and take a hit?
Yeah, these
are tough
It's a
decisions.
tough question for sure.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm looking at is like, is this the right time?
Yeah.
What does this look like in the next 6 months? What's it
Remember
look
back
like
in the
next
day
year?
when you could go out to dinner and a $100 meal was like, wow, we're splurging. This
Yeah.
is an anniversary meal.
100 it's 2 people.
Yeah.
Now
That's an anniversary
$500.
meal, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I've got a
Jesus.
family. I've got a family of 5, 6, but most my
You can't
older
feed
kids.
that. You can't go out to dinner for $100. No way.
I
You
can,
can't go out for pizza
Jess
and
and I
wings.
could barely go out for
Yeah.
$100.
Yeah, we went out the other night, and it was. So we've got 2 older kids who are out of the house, and 2 kids that are home. And I don't remember if did you meet Ralphie when you were out? my son. He has
Manny
Asperger's.
Briegel, yes.
So he's
You and your wife
Yeah,
showed
yeah.
up for, and then she
yeah.
left.
So he's a like 24, but he still lives at home with us, and we have our 6-year-old. My wife and I and the 4 of us, we went out, and it was just a normal, like, we didn't go splurging, but it was still $150,
Sure.
and we were all like, let's not get an appetizer.
It's a
be
dinner
too
at
crazy.
99.
Right?
Yeah, it's like
That's
what on
insanity.
earth?
No,
Yep.
I'm not bashing 99. I'm just saying that's.
It's not
Dude,
good
you-
anymore. It was for a
No.
while. Their
Was
steak
it? I
tips
haven't
were
been
okay.
forever.
It's
Yeah.
not good.
6 people with burgers.
Yeah.
You're over $100.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's insane. And like like you were saying, like missing the curve. I mean, obviously, a podcast also exploded in the amount of time, and I haven't. In this area alone, there's a few beer podcasts all of a sudden. When I first started, I thought I was the only one. I just realized that I've quickly realized that Chris from Stories Behind the Bar started a podcast before I did. He actually beat us to it, and then but it's it's the same thing. Like I love watching Chris do what he does. He has a couple different podcasts, and I think there's enough room in the market to cheer him on and still
Sure.
do what we do. I'm sure he'll come knocking on your door at some point soon, and you should take that call and you should do a podcast with him. He's a great guy,
Yeah.
and he has a great podcast.
Well, I love talking to people. I
Yeah.
love like just meeting new people.
Same here, man.
Yeah.
Same here.
It's all good. You're really good at it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go
We'll
ahead
wrap
and
it
wrap
up.
this one up, and
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'm glad that you did this. This is a record-breaking podcast. We haven't. It's a first for actually talking about food outside of our barbecue podcast that we do, where we pair barbecue with beer.
Yeah.
This is the first time that we've ever gone over 2 hours.
I tell you what, I could do another hour. I tell you what, we could just get another round of beers and another pizza and just keep it rolling.
Well, let's.
He's like, nah,
we
we're
can
done.
we can shut it off, but we can certainly keep
we
keep
can-
the comment
we'll
going.
keep the party going.
I'm a talker, so I'll be here
I'll
forever.
do another point, and then I'm going to take off. But I'm going to wrap this one up, and then we got to do this again. We obviously didn't cover everything we need to cover. We had a great conversation.
Yeah.
This is why this podcast was started. Have beers and good conversation.
Hell yeah.
Absolute.
right.
Thanks
And-
again for having me, man. I
Thank you,
appreciate being
buddy.
on here.
Yeah, and
Appreciate it, buddy.
tell me about your social media. Where can people find out about you?
It's a good question. Mary
Just
Jo,
Google.
where are we at? Google the World Wide Web, and
Google the World
we're at Speckled Pig Brewery, and I think we got Facebook. Look me up on my MySpace page.
Yeah.
Nice.
Your geosite page. Yeah, check. Just
Where you
Google
can
the
hear all
Speckled
my
Pig.
favorite bands.
And if you get to the Speckled Pig, don't get me wrong. I've never been, but I'm sure it's a great shop. Keep going until you find the Speckled Pig. They're there.
I
It's
do
worth
get
the
that.
look. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Until next time, people.
All right, brother.